Hello, back to Lorehammer, and we got Rogal Dorn! Welcome.
Good evening. It is I, Rogal Dorn. I am here to fortify this podcast with my presence at Mark's permission. I am joined also by the great and powerful Bro Diddley, and now I'll hand it back over to you, Mark.
Yeah, that's a sweet painted mini-man. The man himself painted on the screen before our very eyes. Rogal Dorn, or as my wife called today, which I thought was pretty funny, Rogal. What are you talking about, Rogal? What's Rogal up to today? I'm like, I don't know what Rogal's up to, but we'll find out on this episode of Lorehammer. Hey, we got Brody and Gerald. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Are you guys excited to like you said, fortify some stuff? Secure,
I'm
lock
excited
down.
to fortify.
Yes,
But
yes.
you know, in the grand scheme of things, Rogal Dorn, I feel like he's just a bro. He's just a
Really?
bro, right? Like he's just. I think he's just a bro. He wants to be a bro. And in the spirit of that, with Rogal Dorn, we're gonna grip it and rip it. Pour one out for Rogal Dorn, everybody.
Yeah, we won't say what happened to the poor guy yet. I mean, to him yet. No need to think anything bad happened to him.
Nothing bad ever happened to anyone at 40k or 30k.
Never. Well, yeah, this episode we're doing Rogal Dorn. It's going to be part of the series that we kind of do with all the Primarchs and their legions. But before we get into it, we'll do some quick housekeeping. You want to buy Lorehammer merchandise? You see this banner behind me? You can go to Redbubble. You can buy yourself one. You can buy t-shirts. I bet you could even buy condoms if you try hard enough. They'd have to be used and off me, but you can do it. Go to Redbubble though. Check out that stuff. You might want to buy something. Dice mugs. I don't know. Fuck it.
In the far future of museum and hospitality places, there is a dedicated Lorehammer wing, and in there is going to be a couple of used condoms from Mark, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Solo used. Like there was no women involved in the use of these things.
Exactly.
But hey, they're there. Much like the Imperial Fists. In case. Wait, no spoilers! No spoilers! Nothing bad has ever happened or ever will happen to Rogal Dorn.
You see, the gene seed of Mark must be collected in some way, shape, or form, so we lack the technology to extract it through other means.
Jeez.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right. Rogal Dorn face. Before I get into character, I made this bet with Mark. I'm going to try as much as possible to do the whole episode in Rogal Dorn's TTS voice. So here we go. Okay. Per God Emperor Mark's request, you must join the Imperial Tithe and support the show. Ad-free versions are only $2.50 American per month, with a video version of $5 or more per month. And you get no ads, and you are welcome to join the lovely, lovely voice chat. And now back over to Bro Diddley.
I can't do it. I will laugh too much.
Thank you, Rogal Dornus. Rogus Dornus.
Rogus Dornus, there you go. If you want to be a part of listening to Gerald do his great voices of the TTS characters, join the live stream, join the chat room. We've got if you join the Patreon, you get access to this live stream. You get access to a live chat room during the show, and we also do calling guests at the end. So if you want to be a part of the crew, you've always dreamed late at night, oh, I wonder what it would be like to be on Lorehammer.
Oh God.
You can. It's easy. Just bombard us in the live chat. Pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me.
It makes me deeply, deeply, deeply uncomfortable to know that there are full-grown men right now listening to me while they're going to bed. Yes. Doesn't that make anyone just uncomfortable?
You know what makes me uncomfortable, Mark, is this comment by the Lorehammer podcast about a lot of tension going on.
It's just this It's just a strong theme I've been sensing whenever me and you same episode, Gerald.
Oh,
This tension with a freaking butter knife.
Yeah.
er.
All right. This episode, we're doing Rogal Dorn, his origins in the Great Crusade. In it, we will be talking about his history. We'll start with his home world, Inwit, and we'll talk about growing up there, how the Emperor came, and all that. Then we're going to dive into the Great Crusade, a little bit on the Imperial Fists, then the Iron and Stone campaign, then the triumph of Ulanor, that big success against the Orcs, and jealousies and rivalries. Rogal Dorn seems to have had a lot of different relationships with a lot of different primarchs. Yeah, some of them good, some of them bad, but he's kind of got a mixed bag of everything. He's got an opinion on all of them too, so there's a lot of that in this one. And then he gets sent to fortify the Imperial Palace at the end of the Great Crusade. Finally, we'll get into his kind of personality, because that's what we'll leave it on the history. We'll leave it at kind of he's fortifying that palace. Then we talk about his personality and his spot as the Emperor's Praetorian, his appearance, the war gear, and a little bit on the phalanx in this episode. When I opened it up, I'm like, holy shit, they got a lot there. Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit of that. It's a fun little piece of war gear, I guess you could say, that Rogal Dorn has, possibly.
Just the tiniest piece of war gear
Yeah,
next to
exactly.
my giant ego.
No, he doesn't have that.
It is only a moderate-sized piece of war gear, bro diddly. You should be aware of this. I am not too posh.
And then the final thing we'll leave on this episode is Rogal Dorn and his views on the other Primarchs. Leaving it kind of right at the apex of the Great Crusade. So yeah, gonna be fun. I've always liked Rogal Dorn. Growing up, he was one of my preferred. I think I always leaned between Rogal Dorn and Raboot Gilliman. But what I liked about Rogal Dorn was kind of the no nonsense. He kind of seemed believable. Sometimes you get characters, and especially Primarchs in 40k, where they're wacky, they're goofy. They don't make choices that you think a regular human would make, where Rogal Dorn seems like he could actually be in the setting. He seems like you would want him to be a commander. He seems like he would be kind of that guy that would kind of result in a universe of that. This no nonsense, kind of stern, but get shit done kind of guy. And I kind of always liked him. And then the other big aspect I've always liked about him personally was, is he a builder first or is he a warrior? Hard to say. He can pick up either hammer to smash or create, but I think he gets more enjoyment out of the creation, and I kind of relate to that little builder aspect. So, what do you guys like about him?
So to double dip into this nerddom, you would say he'd be more like Bob the Builder.
Yeah, exactly. Bob the Builder, one hand a hammer, the other hand a gun. Yeah, and he's like renovating the streets or something.
Renovating the streets.
Yeah.
I make the streets a mess and then I clean them up.
Oh God, Bob. Nobody asked for this, Bob.
Nobody asked for this, Bob. The name's Rogal. Oh God, he's having flashbacks.
He's flashing back to the war.
Yeah, just fortunate son playing in the background. I like Rogal Dorn too. He's like you said, that no nonsense that he has is kind of nice, and yeah, him, Horus, and Perdurabo and Raboot Gilliman are the only ones that I'm like, you guys seem like competent commanders.
Yeah, man.
Everybody else just seems way kind of out there, and I'm like, you're very niche. You guys seem like actual, good overall military commanders. But I
Yeah.
also found that I really like is during the Great Crusade, it's all about the imperial truth. And I think he portrays the imperial truth the best out of all the primarchs.
And just like his worldview and how he approaches things, you mean, kind of? Yeah.
like in his worldview, but also how he actually approaches everything. So, like, Magnus shows up to a planet. He's like, "Magic's real, but there's no gods." Like, that's confusing. First, I'm confused. And like, there's other primarchs too, like even like Alfarius and Omegon, like they're so in the shadows and everything. They're kind of more deceitful. You have Reboot Gilliman, who is more of like a statesman, more, and he's all about the political game. Whereas Rogal Dorn's like, we are the Imperium. There are no gods. Join us or perish. Like, it's that simple. And you
Yeah.
need to make a decision for your world. Make the right one. And it's like everybody's like, oh damn. Like, yeah, we're good. Like yeah, we're in it.
Yeah, and as we go through and as we learn in his history, like these that kind of threat or that kind of invitation was often enough where Rogal Dorn didn't stack up the most victories, like most conquests. He doesn't have the most lofty, accomplishments or the hardiest campaigns fought. Like he never really did that. He kind of would build up the planet, take planets that are kind of willing to comply, and then build them up and make them like solid pillars of the Imperium that you could then rely on. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
you have people that can like if you had three leaders right now, you have like Horus, he goes out and takes it. Then Rogal Dorn will build it up, and then Reboot Gilliman can run it after, and that'd be a nice little dream team if Chaos didn't fuck around.
Yeah, exactly, right? 100%. I agree. And that's where I really like Rogal Dorn because like I said, he's more Imperial truth than anything. He really wants to build the Imperium as its like own foundations.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, let's dive into kind of his overview, and then we'll start with the homeworld and all that.
Okay. All right. I hope Seth is in the chat so he can appreciate my Rogal Dorn voice. I'm doing this for him, so you better be listening, Seth. Rogal Dorn, Origins and Great Crusade. Rogal Dorn, known as the Vigilant, Praetorian of Terra, and Unyielding One, was the primarch of the Imperial Fists Legion. To his sons he was revered as Defiance, a name that spoke to the very core of his being. He was not just a leader, he was an embodiment of duty and purpose, forged in the crucible of the Emperor's vision. He was a figure of unrelenting resolve, his face as stern as the iron will that guided him. His short, bone-white hair seemed to crackle with the intensity of his convictions. Dorn's purpose was simple. There was nothing higher than the unity of mankind, nothing more sacred than the Emperor's cause. To question this was anathema. His resolve was the backbone of the Imperium, unyielding and unshakable. Whether standing in defense or pressing the assault, the very stone of his soul gave him the strength to shoulder whatever burden was placed upon him by the Emperor, and he did so without hesitation or doubt. I'm going to break in character for just a second, but I think this right here was one of my favorite things about Dorn is because he's just like that rock solid foundation. Like he is what you want for a solid defense. Like what Mark was saying about building things back up and just having that pure iron will and determination. That really speaks to me about him.
Yeah. Skeleton says Mr. Reliable, but yeah, there's something about forging the environment to your own will and manifesting a building out of nothing. I've done it before, or helped with other men do it before, where you erect some structure and at the end of it you're looking at this building. It's fucking tight, and Rogal Dorn does that all the time, and then he sets up cool systems for it, and then he kind of leaves it, carries on.
100%. I agree. It's good. It's a good time all around.
Oh yeah. I was talking with someone in the Discord about like what games would each Primarch be able to stream, and Rogal Dorn immediately just like vanilla Minecraft. Here we go. He's got this. He's building and fortifying this shit.
Oh god, yeah, that and Enshrouded. I'd love to see him play either of those
Oh,
games.
he would do so great in Enshrouded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, him in Minecraft reboot Gilliman would be Age of Empires, like
Yeah. You got
same.
Perturabo and Iron Hands, Ferris Manus. They're playing like space engineer or something together, building weapons and tanks and shit.
Beautiful.
Ah, glorious. Okay, back to the notes. If the Primarchs were the Emperor's essence split into myriad aspects, then Dorn stood as the Emperor's unrelenting will made flesh. Very true. His loyalty, his duty, were not mere ideals. They were the very marrow of his being, as vital as blood, as necessary as breath. It was this unwavering nature that led the Emperor to name Dorn the Praetorian of Terra, drawing him away from the War Master and his command. To some of his brothers, this was seen as a slight, a means of separating Dorn and his legion from the rest. To those who harbored resentment towards Dorn's resolute nature, his elevation was another cause for tension, an example of the very pride and obstinacy they despise. Also known as, it smells like bitch in here. It was. I can't believe I did that with a straight face. It was Dorn who oversaw the construction. if okay, it was
Cool.
Dorn who oversaw the construction of the Imperial Palace's defenses on Terra, the very defenses that would withstand the cataclysmic siege of Terra during the heresy. His works would be tested to their limits, but his determination ensured that they would never falter. The Primarch of the Imperial Fists is second only to the Ultramarines Primarch Reboot Gilliman in the adoration his name inspires in the masses of the Imperium, and even amongst the other chapters of the Adeptus Astartes in the 41st millennium, he is held in high regard. And I have a quote by Rogal Dorn myself, so I will speak it now. Discipline, duty, unyielding will, these are the measures by which every warrior is judged. Unarmed, a warrior with these qualities will still find victory, no matter how long or arduous the path. When girded with sacred armaments of the Adeptus Astartes, such a warrior becomes truly indomitable. Rogal Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists.
Discipline, duty, unyielding will. Yes. I love it.
It's very Dorny.
Yeah. I forget which episode it was, but I don't think I was on it. But the boys were talking about the difference between a warrior and a soldier. And maybe for those who don't know, what we'll say the difference between a warrior and a soldier is a warrior is kind of like more offense, will go out and attack things and take things, where a soldier is more of a defender. Essentially, there's like duty behind it. It's not so much for advancement, it's for defense. And when it comes to Rogal Dorn, yeah, he falls perfectly into that soldier's kind of category, where it's a duty, discipline, unyielding will. He's not doing this for laurels or anything like that. He's doing this because it has to be done, and no one else is going to be able to do it as good as he does it.
I heard the comparison made one time by Bricky in his solo YouTube channel because he does a lot of Warhammer content by himself, apart from Adeptus Ridiculous, and he described the Dorn and the Imperial Fist as like that very, very rigid, strict, structured like soldier class with the crew cut and everything, and it's all about discipline and duty. And this sums it up perfectly.
Yeah, and then just for the opposite picture of like, okay, well then if that's that crew cut, military attire, that's a soldier. Then the warrior would be the Layman Russes, the Angrons, the Jegcatty Cans. Those are warriors where they enjoy it to some degree, and they find like there's an art to the actual battle itself, and there's all that kind of stuff. So fun little difference, fun little thing.
Lupercal says
Yeah.
that comment was made in one of the Space Wolf episodes.
Yeah. I wasn't on those ones, so I forget which one it was. But yeah, no, it was a very interesting thing. I never quite heard it broken down that way, and maybe it's a very obvious thing, but I like when there's little words like that where you think but then when you kind of give that deeper dive, you learn so much more.
You think you know, but you don't know.
Even if it's
You don't know what you don't know.
Uh,
But yeah, no, it's I definitely agree. Like, there's that warrior spirit is definitely within some of the Primarchs, and the duty and honor and the soldiery aspect of it is definitely in others. So I agree with that, Mark, 100%.
is
It's a
there
good take.
is there like a third warrior type? I guess there's a bunch typically. I guess you could be like barbarians. I guess you could go through D&D classes and kind of, but maybe that's too much.
You've got, I think you've got like three total. I think there's the warrior. They're the go out and conquer. The soldier, who is the support role more than anything, and like they're still going out and fighting, but they're not really like they're not on the cutting edge, but they are holding things. They are still getting attacked and everything like that, and they're giving structure to things. And then there's the defender, who is just there to fortify and make sure nothing crosses this line.
Yeah,
This is where I defend.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think, and I think the soldiery, like, yes, they're still out doing stuff, but like the warrior is doing it almost in a non-unit based style,
Hmm.
if
Interesting.
that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was kind of blending almost like the defender and the soldier together a little bit. Where yeah, you're right. Like
Oh, okay.
the soldier isn't just a defender. Like it's more than that. Yeah, he will go out. He
Yeah,
will wage war as well and stuff. But it's
and
yeah.
it's because he has to. There's duty and honor to it, and then there's like but I think the Imperial Fists go from being soldiery to defenders during that transition from
Um.
the Great Crusade to just the Siege of Terra.
And then we could even take it a slightly step deeper and fucking might as well. Why not? I think even the Imperial Fists are a very unique chapter in that they have kind of a couple very distinct personality types inside of it. Um, you got like this soldier type, and then you got crusaders like Black Templars, which fits more into that warrior category that we've talked about. And then you got the Crimson Fists as well, and they are more like I think they're made up of veterans, which would be more like these back home defender guys. So you almost actually see the Imperial Fists eventually break up into these three different classes that we made where you got the Black Templar, they're your warrior, then you got, your like the soldier and the Imperial Fists, and then the Crimson Fists and the defender. Or sorry, I
I
flipped
think
those
you're
two around. But
probably, yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah, I think you're onto something with that, because the Crimson Fists are really known to go to places and shore up and defend against impeding attacks coming in. Like, I know, but the Templars are, we're gonna crusade till we can't crusade no more.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
the Imperial Fists are, this is our duty, this is our honor, we have unyielding will. If this needs to be done, it will be done. We don't care if it's going out and getting something, staying and doing something, but it's whatever is needed, that's what we are. And
yeah.
yeah, I like that. And Skeleton actually had a really good comment in the section there. All soldiers are warriors, not all warriors are soldiers.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. The more you know.
Yeah, we're getting deep on philosophy here. I'm philosophizing.
I did hear an interesting thing about the Crimson Fists was, of course, they get it because one of their gauntlets is red, but they're Imperial Fist gene seeds, so there is that siege versus fortify in them. But the way they conduct themselves is also very Ultramarine like, which someone made the comment. I don't know how true this is, but the reason their armor is blue is more of a nod to Gilliman and the Ultramarines. So it's almost like they're kind of like a blend between Imperial Fists and Ultramarines, like the better qualities of each.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
And that's,
Okay.
I think that's right, because Alexis Pollux, who was the chapter master, the first chapter master of the Crimson Fists, he was originally called the Crimson Fist in the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy, because spoiler alert, if you don't know, his hand gets cut off and he gets a red power fist as his like his thing.
Yeah.
Face.
Cut my other arm off too. Fuck yes.
Right?
Set me up like Calgar.
Yeah, make me into a Calgar. He's like, I don't know what that is yet, but like, make me into one.
Sign me up.
Yeah, but he also spent like you're right, Gerald. He is kind of a mix between Ultramarines and Imperial Fist because he actually spends time on Ultramar with Reboot Gilliman and becomes like a major player in like his second empire in
Yeah.
his the Secundus
Interesting.
thing. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it was like, and then he was like, "Nah,
Oh yeah,
screw
because
this,"
he
and
was involved in that whole Pharaohs situation, right?
he exactly the
Yeah.
Pharaoh
Okay. Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's all coming
But yeah,
back to
no,
me.
really interesting. But like, I think that's a really cool take. Like they are a mix of both because he saw how the Ultramarines operated and he really admired it.
Yeah. 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 There is a fourth chapter that I'll throw out there that the Imperial Fists also founded during the second founding, and that was the Soul Drinkers. But they got a very different vibe, you know.
Mm.
Maybe the archetype that they fall into would be like the fallen warrior, but even that's not, you know, that's a whole different conversation.
Sad boys.
Yeah. Let's dive back to Rogal Dorn, though. I think.
Yes. Let's do that.
Sorry. Kind of like each Primarch is a aspect of the Emperor. Each of the chapters after the second founding kind of take on different aspects of their Primarchs. And one
Yeah.
thing that is brought up quite a bit, especially with the Black Templars and the Soul Drinkers, especially anyone that's an Imperial Fist successor has a really bad habit of taking on like this pent up rage that Dorn is known to have. We'll talk about that later in the episode or like in the next Rogal Dorn episode, but he has a lot of pent up rage that you don't notice until he's already about to blow a gasket.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got that interest in like, yeah, you don't think he could ever snap, but then if he does, it's like, holy moly. Yeah.
It's basically me. Like it's like the first time I ever got angry like with something. My wife was like, "I've never seen you angry before. That's terrifying." I was
I
like,
remember the
"No."
first time Brody hit me. The year was just kidding.
Yeah,
Brody's
it was
never
the
hit
first day
me.
we met, Mark.
It was.
It was the
We
first
were
day we
cruising
met.
the town for bitches, and then all of a sudden you just hit me.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to play Warhammer. Smack. You're like, we're gonna play Warhammer when I say we're gonna play Warhammer.
He did not have to tell me he wanted to play twice.
Exactly. All right, let's get back to Rogal Dorn here. History. Homeworld of Inwit. Inwit is a cold and merciless world, imperial ice world, and heart of the Inwit cluster, buried deep within Segmentum Tempestus. It is no backwater. It stands as a fleet bastion of the Navis Imperialis and proving ground for regiments of the Astra Militarum. From its frozen soil, warriors are carved like stone, disciplined, unyielding, and bred for war. The world itself is a crucible of death. Uh, its star is ancient and dying, casting only a dim red glare across a land frozen in silence. Tidally locked, Inwit endures eternal night on one side and a weak, blood hued day on the other. The splintered lands dominate the dark hemisphere, jagged peaks, frozen dunes, and labyrinthine crevasses where only predators and the desperate survive. Here, humanity endures through strength alone. Beneath the ice, sluggish oceans stir in darkness. Sightless things drift in silence, drawn by sound and blood. Above, void citadels orbit still, relics of forgotten ages, haloed in permanent auroras. The light side fares no better. Salt scarred seas and cracked stone under an unblinking sun, where even light offers no warmth. There's little wealth on Inwit. Its mines are bare, its seas barren, its wildlife hostile. But it creates what no furled world can. Warriors honed by suffering, schooled in scarcity. Its people are brutal, but not unthinking. Wise in survival, harsh in judgment. Weakness is not punished by ceremony, but by exposure to the storm, the beast, the silence.
Cool. So far, this plan is kind of cool. I like its little setup of this like
Yeah.
Navis Imperialis proving ground or factory. I mean, well, yeah, they just make a bunch of ships in this spot. It's fun when these planets actually have some use other than just like I don't know, planet 97A, and we use it for fucking so and so. That's not really important. But this seems like it's a very vital planet.
Seems like it, yeah. And I think the other part too, um, with that is like they said, the Astra Militarum use it as a proving ground because like if you can train and fight on Inwit, I bet you can friggin' train and fight anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't sound nice. There's like predators in the crevasses.
Not the
I don't
crevasses,
even
no.
I don't want to go into the crevasses.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
what a crazy planet. Yeah, you really wouldn't want to live here, I don't think. Any place where it's cold and icy, I'm like, fuck that, even if there's not predators out there.
that's pretty crazy, man.
So we'll carry on with the homeworld. Death here wears many faces. A storm can kill in seconds. A beast's breast is colder than wind. A moment's lapse can let the cold inside your armor. Nomadic clans wander the ice, trading fuel, weapons, and scavenging technology. From the moment they can stand, the young are taught to fight, to calculate, and to take what must be taken. During the Age of Strife, Inuit forged its own empire. Each conquest brought knowledge, but the world itself remained unchanged. Its people clung to the old ways: honor, austerity, silence. Leaders ruled from frozen halls no warmer than the homes of their kin. Their fleets grew vast, their reach spread, but their soul of Inuit stayed fixed in ice. Its technology remained shrouded, veiled behind deliberate silence. Inwit is a world of contrast, austere and ancient in culture, yet capable of forging voidcraft that rival anything in this segmentum. Those who know its depth speak rarely of them. They do not need to. Inuit speaks through what it endures, and through steel-hearted warriors it casts into the stars. Yeah, what a uninviting place. And it just like you go there and you become that uninviting person now. You're just cold, kind of gruff, and just yeah.
One might make this comparison similar to Fenris for the Space Wolves.
But that, at least Fenris, you get the cool drinking and it's happy warriors, and even the monsters, you're like, yeah, fuck, there's a monster we can fight and kill. It's a very different vibe of Ice World.
You say that, and yet the Space Wolves seem very uninspired as a chapter, naming
Ah.
everything after wolf, 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 wolf.
Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a different vibe. Like when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, cool. It's just an ice world, basically Fenris, and you're like, do you even know what Fenris is?
But it's Fenris,
God,
but not fun. And it's like you
yeah.
still gotta wake up early because somebody's like your drill sergeant's knocking on your door. Like fuck.
I gotta wake up early. I don't want to, Granddad. That's too damn bad.
That's too damn bad.
Yeah, it's, but I'm tired of this. Yeah, Rogal Dorn. Rogal Dorn looks over. That's too damn bad, Space Marine. Oh man.
Hmm. Seth, you are late to my speaking in my Rogal Dorn voice, but for your sake, I'll show you me. I hope you're satisfied. And now we get to talk about Rogal Dorn in his youth. Primarchs are weapons forged by the hand of the Emperor, not men. They are beings of grim purpose, embodiments of strength, will, and vision, sharpened to the point of impossibility. What lies within a legionary, the fury, the loyalty, the strength, burns in the Primarch like a furnace. Though made from the seed of humanity, they are not human, Born partially of the warp, they are something more, and something far more dangerous. It sounds spicy, but totally illogical. When a Primarch is reunited with his legion, the meeting is not merely one of blood, it is a convergence of purpose. The gene seed that shaped the legion finds its true form, and what was once strong becomes unyielding. In the case of the Imperial Fists, the moment of union with Rogal Dorn did not change them, it crystallized them. What they were in potential, they became in absolute. When the Primarchs were torn from Terra and cast into the stars by the powers of the warp, they were flung to the far reaches of the galaxy. Each landed on a world that would test and shape them. Rogal Dorn endured Inwit. Inwit is a world of silence and death. Its ancient star gives off a failing red light, casting no warmth. One side of the planet lies in endless cold shadow, the other in faded, sterile light. The dark side witness the power of the dark side, is called the Splintered Land, a brutal expanse of ice canyons, jagged peaks, and the frost-choked plains where beasts hunt and only the strong endure. Very similar to Fenris, but very uninspired. Beneath its frozen surface, sluggish oceans hide blind predators and drawn to blood and motion. There are predators in the crevasses. Above the sky is watched by ancient void stations, ghosts from the long lost age of technology, long abandoned but never fallen. Even the light side of Inwit offers no reprieve. Barren stone, wind-scoured seas, and a sun that barely burns. There is nothing soft on Inwit. It offers no comfort, no easy life, no wealth. But from its cold soil and harsher history, it has produced something of worth. Its people, hard, disciplined, and merciless, they carved out an empire among the stars during the age of strife. They are not savages, unlike those on Fenris. They are survivors, builders, warriors, and Rogal Dorn is their greatest son.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It's fun the people this breeds. These strong, hardy, no nonsense kind of people that are just gonna be reliable for you. I
Yeah.
it's funny being in Panama now as opposed to Canada and just getting the vibe difference of the weather. Like it affects everything you do. Like here you could just be like, you know what, the sun's gonna be here for all time. Where when winter comes, man, in Canada, you're like, fuck, I gotta be productive. I gotta survive this winter somehow. Like you get frantic almost.
You know what's funny? I like for most of the people on the live stream, they can see I'm in a different room than I usually am.
Heck
That's
yeah.
because I've been able to do some renovations, and the only reason I've been able to do them is because it's no longer -50 outside.
God damn.
It's like
You silly fucking Canadians. What are you doing?
I know, like, I'm just like, "Well, I haven't been able to do the flooring because I can't set up my saw outside because it's -50 and I don't wanna die every time I
Oh,
need to go cut a piece of wood."
Is that
yeah.
-50 in Celsius or freedom units for the Americans?
That is Celsius.
I can attest that is very cold.
What is that in freedom units? Celsius to Fahrenheit.
I am calculating this right now.
Skeleton says he loves the cold. It's a healing thing, and you can learn to work with it. You know what? That just sounds like Stockholm syndrome. You know, oh yeah, the cold's great. Oh, we can love it. It's fine. Oh,
For the Americans that are listening to this podcast, -50 degrees Celsius is -58 degrees Fahrenheit.
yeah, messed up. But it breeds some type of people. I'll tell you that much. Living in
Har
that type of
hardy,
environment.
hardy peoples. Why do you think I got this extra layer?
Yeah,
This extra layer of fat on me? You
yeah.
gotta stock up for winter.
You got him, man. I wonder if Rogal Dorn's mustache is that kind of handlebar without the chin. I wonder if he used to have a full beard on the cold, frozen patches of his world. But then his summertime beard is that little strip.
Yeah, he just his summertime beard is just the chin.
Yeah.
He just has great big mutton chops.
Exactly.
Call me Captain Price. I am no longer Rogal Dorn.
Oh, God.
Oh boy.
I can't unsee that now. If I ever play Call of Duty ever again and I see Captain Price, I'm just gonna think that's Rogal Dorn.
Hey,
I yeah, I was shaving one day and my dog, I was just like trying to trim my beard and my dog jumped up and like I got like all the way down like, oh no, like what have I done? So I just like just did this, but I was late for work already, so I'm like, I got to just go. So
yes.
I went with these gigantic fucking mutton chops, and everybody
All
looked at me like,
day.
you either come in with that or a full beard. Nothing else will ever suffice. And I'm like, ah, shit. Oh boy. Now, here's the great thing about facial hair and Primarchs. Do you think that Rogal Dorn was able to grow facial hair from the time he landed on Inwit? He's just a child with a full beard. I
Yeah.
think it'd be great. Oh boy. Anyways, the warriors of Inwit are not raised, they are hardened. The world the world shapes them with frost and famine, with silence and steel. Weakness is not punished, it is destroyed. A lapse in discipline means death by the jaws of beasts that prowl the ice wastes, by the storms that freeze a man's blood in seconds, or by the cold itself, always waiting to exploit the smallest failure in a seal or system. Yeah, that's basically Canada in for like 3 months of the year.
Fuck.
So,
What a nightmare.
man, I'm telling you right now, it's not fun. Mark knows.
Oh,
All the other Canadians are like, and I'm out here in Saskatchewan where it's like it's cold, and then we also just get the last of all of the wind from both sides of the country in the middle, and like it's just
freezes
awful.
you out. Yeah.
Yeah. Such a world produces no gentlemen. It forges survivors, grim, silent, and not loyal, and loyal not to self, but to the survival of the whole. Most of Inwit's population moves through the deep tunnels and creaking ice hives, trading weapons, fuel, and salvage. Between nomadic clans, war is a constant. Children learn the blade with the same urgency as they learn to conserve body heat. To live is to fight, and to fight is to learn fast. On Inwit, even knowledge is a battlefield, and only the strong sees it. Before the Emperor's light ever reached Terra's skies, Inwit had already begun its slow expansion. It conquered not with arrogance, but with the method assimilate, reinforce, and endure. Each world added to its grasp, deepened its strength, but Inwit itself never softened. It remained a crucible, even as it birthed war fleets and surrounded itself with orbital fortresses. The old ways endured. The ruling warlords lived as harshly as their vassals. The ice teaches equality through pain. This was the forge of Rogal Dorn. Within the growing empire of the Inwit cluster, a child rose. The boy was not their blood, but the world did not care. It tested him as it tested all, and he endured. He rose, first to lead the House of Dorn, the Ice Caste, then the entire star spanning dominion. Much of his early life remains unwritten, but this is certain. In the deep dark of Inwit, a Primarch became a warlord.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking cool. There's this whole star system. This doesn't happen very often with the Primarchs, where they actually kind of get more access than just their home world. Normally the Emperor shows up, they haven't left the planet yet, and then he goes off world for the first time with the Emperor. But yeah, this is kind of different. He kind of fights and inherits this interstellar empire and stuff. And I love hearing about all these different starports that they make and starships and stuff. Sounds like they just make so many. We come to learn eventually they do make the Phalanx, which for those of you who don't know, it's a big old fucking starport. But how many other different starports do they make out of there? A lot, sounds like.
And I think
Sounds like it.
I think Dorn and Gilliman are the only ones that actually inherited like an interstellar empire before Big E met with them. I think all the other Primarchs were just isolated on like their one home world, and that was it. So Dorn and Gilliman were the exceptions.
Maybe the only other one we throw in there is like Alfarius and Omegon, where it's like, well, we don't know. maybe they did have a whole thing going on that we just don't know about. But either way, they were found in space, so they had a kind of different
Ooh.
backstory. Yeah, they were already out there.
I can't wait to get to that episode because I actually read the Alfarius book, so I kind of know what happens.
Yeah, good stuff. Very cool.
Warren's adopted grandfather, the patriarch of the clan, taught him war, diplomacy, and the burden of command. Dorn bore it without complaint. Even upon learning he was no bloodkin to his mentor, he kept the man's memory close, honored in silence, remembered each night beneath a fur-lined cloak laid upon his bed. Dorn and Inwit were one. His mind was cold steel, his will unbending. The empire he inherited, he refined. He led its armies, elevated its doctrine, and shaped its fleet into instruments of precise destruction. No triumph came easy. Every inch was earned, every moment paid for in endurance. This was the legacy he brought to the Imperium.
Fucking cool. He's already out there battling orcs and horrific Xenos in the galaxy, conquering his little empire.
Yeah.
Fucking cool, man.
Super sick. I really like the pre Big E stories and history of Rogal Dorn. Seems very cool. Like they could do a lot more expansion on it, I think.
Yeah. Like what were kind of the tenets of his empire, and like was it pretty much exactly like the Imperium, and that's why it kind of bled together so nicely? Or like, yeah, we could definitely know a lot more. And then the Emperor came, and just like that, Inwit became unimportant, essentially. As cool as it is, we'll find out why. The coming of the Emperor, for 40 standard years after the death of his adoptive grandfather, the Great Crusade reached out to the outer systems of Inwit. In the year 835 M30, Imperial ships made contact with the cold bastions of the Ice Hives, and with the man who ruled them. In that meeting, the Emperor recovered not only a son, but a weapon, a Primarch tempered by hardship in a realm already forged for war. Rogal Dorn did not meet his father with ceremony, but with certainty, at the helm of an ancient void ship, a relic of the age of technology known as the Phalanx. He stood solemn and ready. He had discovered it drifting in the dark of Inwit stars and made it his own. There, aboard the fortress ship, Dorn was found, the seventh Primarch to be reclaimed. The Emperor did not hesitate. The Phalanx was returned to Dorn's command, refitted as the fortress monastery of the 7th Legion. That legion, born of Dorn's gene seed, now came home with him. It was not a gift, it was a recognition. Dorn had no need to earn command. He was already proven himself a master of discipline and conquest. From the first moment, Dorn's loyalty was absolute. He did not bend the knee in search of favor. He asked nothing. He demanded only the right to serve. Truth for Dorn was an essential as breath, unyielding and bare. He would not speak falsehood even when silence would have spared him. For this reason, his likeness stands upon McCraig, only one of 4 statues granted that honor besides Gilliman of the Ultramarines. As commander of the 7th Legion, Dorn became one of the Imperium's foremost warlords. His strategies were exacting, precise, and unshakable. Where others waged war with fury, Dorn brought certainty. He possessed a mind built for siegecraft and logistics, but was not without moments of brilliance, flashes of ruthless inspiration that changed the course of campaigns. His achievements across the stars were countless. Even Horus, before his fall, spoke of Dorn with unwavering respect. The Luna Wolves, masters of assault, and the Imperial Fists, lords of defense, pitted against each other. Though War Master claimed such a war would never end. Neither side would yield, neither side would break. Such was Dorn. And then I got a quote from the Rogal Dorn. Do not look upon us for kindness. Do not look upon us for hope. We are not the kind of children of this new age. We are the rocks of its foundation. If you wish hope, then look to what we make. If you wish kindness, then look to those who come after us. Rogal Dorn addressed to the 300 magistrates of Terra.
A very astute impression of Rogal Dorn, if I do say so myself, Mark.
Yeah. Not as good as yours, but I'm not the master of voices. But yeah, that's a cool point. Like, man, he is the exact opposite of what the rebellion, Horus's rebellion, kind of was, where it's like, well, what are we gonna do after all the wars are run? Rogal Dorn's like, let me just get the Empire to that point, and then you guys can look to whoever then. But now it's serious.
It's kind of almost treated like how the Emperor wanted the Imperium to run after the Great Crusade was done. Like he needed the
Yeah,
Primarchs and the Astartes legions to set everything up, and then he was going to leave it to humanity to kind of figure out how to go from there.
yeah.
So it's really cool how Dorn is probably the one Primarch to actually embody that vision of a united humanity, other than the Khan when we talked about him a while ago.
Yeah, but the Khan has yes, for sure. The Khan wants a united humanity, but man, he would have been okay with any united humanity, where
Mhm.
Rogal Dorn and the Emperor's united humanity's vision is definitely like that
Mhm.
same, you know.
Mhm. And I did some looking while you were reading on because there was talk about like we all know the Primarchs were basically infants when they were scattered across the galaxy by the warp. And so some people were asking when were they created and when were they actually yeeted across the galaxy? And an official number wasn't given, but with some context clues, the first instance of the Astartes was created through some primordial strains around 550 M30, and which is a few years after the Unification Wars began. And then someone speculated the Primarchs were then scattered across the galaxy around 644 M30, and it wasn't until M31 or around 800 M31 that the Great Crusade began. So they've been around for a couple hundred years before the Great Crusade started, at the very least, if that figure is correct.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. That's a long time to get up to some stuff.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And speaking of the Great Crusade, we will talk about that next. Rogal Dorn was a figure of iron will and unyielding discipline, his energy focused with surgical precision, and his manner as cold as and immovable as stone. Often called dour, even emotionless, such observations fail to grasp the deeper truth. Dorn was a fortress of restraint, but when roused to wrath, that restraint broke like thunder. His fury was not wild, but controlled, honed, and deadly. Like a siege engine brought to bear with deliberate malice, his silences were heavier than most men's rage. When he spoke with fire, the stars themselves seemed to recoil. Breaking character for just a second. It's almost like that the scarier kind of rage where you're not just blowing up and screaming at someone, but if you're just quiet and then you don't know what's going to happen next. I always found that level of anger a lot scarier than just the explosive kind.
Hmm. Unpredictable.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
I think I heard a quote somewhere that was like, don't be afraid of the guy that's just blowing up and screaming in your face. Be afraid of the guy that is talkative, but then suddenly just goes quiet.
Yeah. It talks about Rogal Dorn having these like flashes of tactical brilliance and stuff, and I wonder if they came at that point of anger where it's the standard protocol up until he does finally snap. It's like, fuck, I lost my 10th guy today, and then he snaps, and then he has this like tactical spark or whatever, or maybe even just like the fervor to make something more happen.
I feel this rage build up inside me. I must change tactics.
Yeah. I don't like the way this is making me feel.
Except he's still going to be like completely deadpan in his delivery on everything.
Oh yeah, yes, of course. I do not enjoy the way that this is making me feel on the inside.
These feelings are very, very irrational. Oh no. Oh no. I am enraged right now. Back
you, you know what? You know who Rogal Dorn is?
Hmm.
He
who?
is the captain from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Now look what you've done. I've had to turn my chair.
Yeah.
Oh man. But now let's resume discussion to notes. During the resurgence of the Zahilican breed in the Adonis cluster, it was said that Dorn's fury alone kept the ramparts standing, his grim command outlasting the fear of annihilation. At Castors, his scorn for the tardy reinforcements echoed through the scorched sky, and across the charred sea, Leman Russ himself called Dorn as swift and unforgiving as the falling edge of an axe, not in praise, but in recognition of the truth. Beneath his granite exterior lay a mind that did not forget. Dorn brooded, wounds not of the flesh, but of spirit sank deep. Though he never wavered in loyalty, he was an idealist, and his convictions demanded reason and righteousness. In the age of conquest, few glimpsed this burden, though some may have seen shadows of it in the clash with Conrad Kurz in the Cheraut system, or the grim divide with Ferris Manus following a campaign soaked in unnecessary carnage. Few unions between Primarch and Legion were as immediate or total as that of Dorn and the Imperial Fists. The discipline of Inwit, the dream of an unshakable Imperium, these were in their blood. In his gene sons, Dorn saw more than warriors, he saw the foundation of an eternal order, or as Skeleton mentioned in the comments a while back, more so soldiers than warriors. When he first met the Legion Master Matthias and the assembled veterans of the Imperial Fists, Dorn demanded of them all that he had demanded of himself, everything. He said nothing when they knelt in allegiance. His silence was not indifferent, but expectation heavy and inexorable.
I love that. No lofty speeches need to be had, man. Like everyone's there. They know what they need. They're ready to go. Let's make the Imperium great again.
It's okay, listen up, everyone. We're gonna make the Imperium
No,
great
no,
again. It's
no
coming. The
fancy
Great
speeches.
Crusade is happening. It's happening, Mark. The Great Crusade is happening. We're
You
gonna
can't
make the
stop
Imperium
it.
great
It's
again.
gonna be huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, cool, man. You
It's
get
gonna be,
these guys
it's
and
gonna be huge.
it's gonna be huge.
I love the idea of them all just leaning down, like kneeling down, and they're like, he's like, yeah, I didn't say a fucking word.
Yeah,
He just did it.
they just fucking did it.
Fuck.
Tight. That is cool. To get like
Yeah.
10,000 guys who just kneel for you for no reason. Fuck it.
Right? Just like Tito from Bring Back. Tight, 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 tight,
Tight, tight, tight,
that
tight.
Love it.
was great.
All right. Sorry.
Oh, and I was thinking. I don't know. I'll hold my comment for later. I was noticing a connection.
Oh, he's gonna make some connections. He's gonna teach us some things. All right. Only after witnessing them in the crucible of battle did Rogal Dorn speak to his sons. His words were few, their weight unmeasurable. They had much still to endure and more yet to master. To Matthias he offered a single word of acknowledgement, gratitude forged in iron, and named him High Castellan of the Inwit cluster. It was not a reward, but a burden. A command to raise 30 regiments of new Imperial Fists from the mortal stock of Inwit. Dorn then turned from the ceremony without further remark and led his warriors back into the black void of war. For the next 16 decades of Terran reckoning, the Imperial Fists were tireless. They waged war where others faltered, pressing into the fiercest fronts of the Great Crusade. War zone after war zone fell beneath their disciplined advance. Their brother legions marked their passage with grim respect. for the Imperial Fists left only fortresses and silence in their wake. The doctrines of Inwit were joined to the might of the Emperor's designs, and the Legion became a weapon without weakness. They built as they conquered, fortified every step, but did not linger. They were not governors, they passed judgment with blade and bolter, not law or policy. The Castellan might be left behind to hold what had been taken, but never to rule. They were not lords of the Imperium; they were its shield and its edge. They would bleed and die in that service alone. From each world subdued, they claimed only one tithe, flesh to be reforged in the Legion's image. At Necromunda, the Imperial Fist crushed the orcs of the Ash Wastes in a campaign of ruthless precision. The Hive Lords, in awe and terror, offered up their youth to the Legion. A fortress chapel was consecrated on its soil, but it was a place of remembrance, not dominion. Dorn sought no banners planted, no thrones claimed, where other primarchs, Perturabo foremost amongst them, sought to carve empires within the Emperor's domain. Dorn answered with scorn, I want recruits, not vassals. The Imperial Fists remained what they were born to be, soldiers, not sovereigns. Throughout the Great Crusade, the Imperial Fists served as the Emperor's iron reserve, ever mobile aboard the phalanx, ever ready to strike. Their mastery of siegecraft and urban warfare was without peer, and their reputation grew with every fortified city brought low. When the Emperor returned to Terra to raise his throne world to match the scale of his ambition, he brought the Imperial Fist with him. He named Dorn his Praetorian and gave him the task of raising the Imperial Palace itself, a burden both honor and silent warning. The choice did not go unnoticed. Perturabo, already prone to envy and bitterness, erupted in fury. He railed that no fortress could stand against the Iron Warriors, that Dorn's pride would be his downfall. His words, venomous and wild, stunned even his own sons. After that day, the bond between the two legions fractured. They would not fight beside one another again. Dorn stood ever at the Emperor's side. Perturabo would march at horse's call. One would build the walls of Terra, the other would seek to tear them down. Oof.
Cool.
Oof.
Man, Dorn just ready to go. Like, the Emperor pulls up. He's like, okay, well, I got all these guys. My first order of business is let's make more guys. And you're going to be in charge of making that. That's the only thing you guys need to care about. And then he just like leaves all these people to just, he doesn't care. He pulls up to this planet and he's just like, okay, what do I want here? People, bodies. I need more Imperial Fists so I can go wage more war. And it just kind of is this slow creep across the galaxy where, you might get some other legions that get these huge campaigns or long out campaigns or glorious campaigns where every time you check in on the Imperial Fist, it's like, what are they up to? Okay, they just finished another campaign. It was slow and steady and they got it done. Okay, that's and you just kind of check the tallies and they slowly just consistently build up this record.
And that's kind of where I think a lot of I think that's why he is relatable, is because he's very dependable. He's the guy that never calls in sick to work. He always shows up. You can always count on him to be there.
Yeah.
You're gonna punch that clock 9 to 5,
Yeah.
and you want overtime done, I'm there, sir. Let's get it done. So I like that. I like that.
Good old Dorn. Yeah, and so he was given the Imperial Fists, which kind of have that same mentality. It seems like since they're built off the gene seed, they have that kind of vibe, that same work ethic built in them. So he gets handed the Imperial Fists. And during the Great Crusade, the Imperial Fists were a paragon of discipline, stoicism, and unwavering loyalty to the Emperor's vision. Led by Rogal Dorn, they served as the steadfast vanguard of the Imperium, tasked with both securing new worlds and fortifying humanity's hold over the galaxy. The Legion was known for its exceptional skills in siege warfare and defense, laying the groundwork for countless victories through meticulous planning and unyielding resolve. Their loyalty to the Emperor was absolute, and their unbreakable will made them one of the most reliable and steadfast of all the legions. Though not as aggressive or charismatic as some of their brothers, the Imperial Fists were defined by their near religious commitment to duty, often seeing themselves as the silent, enduring protectors of the Imperium, prepared to sacrifice all in service of the greater goal. Yeah. Just sat slow and steady.
I mean, that just screams professional soldier, like the actual legit Marine Semper Fi of the Astartes.
Yeah.
That whole embodiment.
Yeah. Take your time, plan every detail, then plan it again, double check, and then engage.
Right? Yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely a professionalism about them. Yeah.
Mhm. And I think that's what kind of, I mean, obviously in 40K, the Ultramarines really embody that duty and professionalism, and the Codex Astartes does not support this action. But I don't know, this right here kind of sets the Imperial Fists apart, because I know a lot of comparisons are made. Like I've heard some people say the Imperial Fists are basically the Ultramarines but yellow, and some sort of stuff like that. But it's very distinct still. Like you can tell a difference between what they each do and what they're about. And I'm also just really happy that the Imperial Fists are the poster boys for the Horus Heresy game. Besides, and not the blueberries for once.
Fuck yeah. Yeah.
Before I go into my part of the notes, I did want to point out a connection I was making, like especially when meeting the Emperor and his Legion. Like Dorn kind of does give off very similar vibes. I say similar vibes to when Perturabo was met with the Iron Warriors, because like he had that very same expectation of give me everything, but obviously the difference is like he's not gonna automatically decimate you for like showing a 99.8% success rate.
Yeah, yeah. No need for that.
But yeah, it's just like certain, I guess certain personality traits are very similar to Perturabo, and that I think is also really key in their rivalry and just their fractured relationship, because like they're so
Yeah.
similar, but then Dorn's the one that's basically playing the favorite, and
Yeah.
then
He gets
so
those accolades. He gets the fancy
mhm.
new job title. Yeah.
But at the same time, they're both given, relatively different. I will say the Iron Warriors probably got the shit end of the stick for the Crusades, but they're both given tough tasks. They both approach it and just like this is our duty, get shit done, move on to the next objective. They both have that same mentality, but then you see what happens when you play favorites with one but not the other.
Yeah. And that's a lesson for any parents with two boys out there. Do you want a Cain and Abel situation? Because that's a
For real, for real. I agree with you, Lupercal. I do prefer Imperial Fists over Ultramarines.
heck yeah.
Okay. Iron and Iron and stone. Similarity breeds understanding, so they say. Yet in the case of Rogal Dorn and Perturabo, Primarch of the Iron Warriors, such a notion is swiftly crushed under the weight of their bitter reality. Few would find two beings more alike in nature, yet none could be further apart. Both were stoic, silent to the point of coldness, unyielding in purpose, and masters of war, each valuing endurance and indomitability above all else. It's just like I was saying a moment ago. It's like the notes are reading my mind here. They should have stood united, seeing their universe through a shared lens, yet fate tore them asunder. The depth of hatred between them, so fierce and so absolute, is almost unimaginable. Yet it began, perhaps from the very moment they first stood before each other. The true origins of their enmity remain known only to Dorn and Perturabo, but patterns emerge when their actions and temperaments are examined. Their similarities, rather than bringing them together, sowed the seeds of discord. Both were immovable, driven by an inflexible will, and spoke little. Both brooded, lost in their own minds, behind their cold, unfeeling exteriors. The silence of one irritated the other, while the bluntness of both ignited anger. Neither could yield once a disagreement took root. Their pride and stubbornness sealed their fate in eternal opposition. Though their similarities were many, the differences between them cannot be overlooked. It was these contrasts that often fueled their quarrels, though they were not the sole cause. Both Dorn and Perturabo excelled in siegecraft, yet their methods diverged sharply. While both were pragmatic, Perturabo's approach was brutal, relying on overwhelming force and the slaughter of countless lives. Dorn, though, willing to accept casualties when necessary, despised needless loss and sought to minimize it wherever possible. Dorn's idealism clashed violently with Perturabo's cold pragmatism, and so, over the years of the Great Crusade, the weight of these differences, compounded by honors, betrayals, and misfortunes, built an unbridgeable gulf between them. An enmity was forged, one that would tear apart not only their relationship, but the very legions they commanded, bringing both to the edge of ruin. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this seemed like it was destined to go sideways. Whether there is a Horus heresy or not, this seemed like this was always fated to be kind of the biggest rivalry of all the Primarchs, really.
That's what it seems like, to be honest. It's like one is the fortifier, one is the sieger. Like it does seem like it was almost like destined to be like, I'm gonna make the best fort. Fuck your fort. Like, I'm gonna fuck your fort
Yeah.
up.
And these two, in different situations could have been the best friends. Just imagine if they crash landed together on the same planet and were raised together. They could have been wild together, but no, it just didn't work out that
Imagine
way.
Perturabo receiving love.
Oh, oh, nice. That's nice. So there'd be a lot more alive Iron Warriors that way. A
Right?
lot less decimation. um, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. Like Porterabo, he didn't really kind of like. Yeah, okay, he's upset with Dorn, but Dorn didn't pick the position he was kind of put in. Although it doesn't help that he's kind of smug about it. Seems like yeah, I know I'm the best. Yeah, I got this spot, but also I had the record to back it all up. So and I got this cool fucking starport. So who cares? Like
But the thing about that too is Perturabo kind of does have that arrogance as well. So
yeah, yeah, but he doesn't have the same backing up. The same kind of credential.
he can talk the talk, but he doesn't walk the walk.
Yeah.
Speaking of triumphs and tribulations, one of the great big triumphs that they had as the Imperial Fists was the greatest triumph of the nascent Imperium during the Great Crusade came at a terrible cost. The annihilation of the largest orc empire ever known, the Ulanor Crusade, a monumental imperial campaign, shattered the Greenskin Empire, ruled by the overlord Urlak Uruk, sorry. The heart of this vast orc dominion, the capital world, stood in the Ulanor system, deep within the galaxy's Ulanor sector. This was the site of the final decisive clash, where the full might of the Space Marine legions descended upon the Orcs' forces in a brutal assault. The Crusade was a spectacle of war unmatched in scale, involving 100,000 Space Marines, 8 million Imperial Army soldiers, and a staggering number of Imperial starships and their accompanying support. The Ulanor Crusade marked the zenith of the Imperium's efforts to reunite humanity scattered colonies. a victory that rang through the galaxy as the Imperium's might stood unchallenged. The orcs of Ulanor were the largest and most dangerous concentration of greenskins ever encountered by the Imperium, an army so vast and savage that it would not be rivaled until the Third War for Armageddon. Millennia later, the fall of Uruk and the defeat of his empire, the Emperor of Mankind returned to Terra, leaving the forces of the Crusade in the hands of his chosen son, Horus. The Emperor's task now lay in the unfathomable project to open the Eldar webway for humanity's use. It was in the wake of this victory that Horus was elevated, granted the newly created title of War Master. With this title, Horus became the supreme commander of all Imperial forces, holding dominion over every legion, every fleet, and every primarch. The Emperor's trust was placed in him, and with it, the burden of leading the Imperium's armies to their final, decisive future.
Cool. Skeleton asks, is there any books directly about Ulanor? Then Lupercal gives a good answer. I know there's scenes in various Horus Heresy books, but I don't think they have much on it. And yeah, I'd say the same thing. But Ulanor is a very interesting spot because there's also a lot of books on it when you go to 40k and you learn that it's actually Armageddon, home of the Steel Legion, where Gazkill's at, where Yarek's at. Like, this is a very pivotal planet in the Imperium. And it's interesting how it kind of has a whole bunch of key moments throughout its history.
There's also the Beast Arises series, and that is literally all about the Orc Empire resurging out of Ulanor, and like the orcs that are on the planet wear the armor of the dead space marines that were left on the planet. Super sick.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, definitely a cool setting, for sure. But yeah, it's like the crowning peak of the Great Crusade. This is when the Emperor is kind of like, you know what? I've killed enough Xenos. I think I did a good job. I'm gonna go home. You guys can carry on, finish off the galaxy, and we'll see you soon. He nominates a couple more people like Dorn, come back home with me. War Master Horus, keep going forward.
I'll come back with milk, I promise.
See, this is he's just that manager that like is making everybody else work overtime, and he's like, I pinched my back like 6 months ago, starting to act up again. I gotta go home. Bye, guys.
No. The Lupercal says it does seem to have some sort of spiritual connection to the orcs, and even when it becomes Armageddon, they move across the galaxy, they're still attracted to it. Yeah, you could almost pretend that it's like the orcs' home planet if you really wanted to. Does that matter? Is there any reasoning or proof beyond it? No, but you're right. There definitely seems to be this like spiritual connection to this planet. But the orcs are just drawn to it.
Like there's something special about it.
Like there's something special that planet's trying to tell you. Jealousies and rivalries. When Horus ascended to the rank of War Master, he sought the counsel of his brothers. His promotion severed him from the collective, elevating him above them. And while some nodded in acceptance, others seethed with quiet resentment. The Primarchs, despite their great power and purpose, were no less prone to rivalry than any family, and some felt the title should have been theirs by right. Horus, guided by the political acumen of the Equerry Mallohurst, played his part in the conciliator, soothing fears and smothering dissent. He sought to ensure none felt overlooked, none left in the shadows. Some, like Sanguinius, Logar, and Fulgrim, embraced Horus' election without hesitation. Others, such as Angron and Portarabal, boiled with rage, and their fury demanded that careful touch of the master diplomat. A few, like Lionel Johnson and Russ, accepted the situation with cynical resignation, unsurprised by the Emperor's choice. Then there were those like Gilliman, Can, and Dorn who did not hesitate, did not question. They accepted the Emperor's decision as just, seeing Horus's rise as only one fitting. Horus has always been the favored son, the one close to the Emperor, and the one who achieved the impossible, and none others of the Primarchs could dispute his merit. Among these steady brothers, Horus sought counsel, trusting in their judgment. Dorn and Gelman were the pillars of the Imperium, their loyalty unwavering, their military brilliance unmatched. Horus craved their approval, as any younger brother might seek the calm assurance of the older, more experienced hands. It was at Horus's command that Rogal Dorn arrived at the 63rd Expeditionary Fleet, that they might deliberate on the role of the War Master. Dorn, with his unwavering mind, was perhaps the finest strategist among the Primarchs. His discipline matched Gilliman's, his courage rivaled the Lion's, and yet he possessed a unique adaptability, a warrior spark that had earned him victories alongside the likes of Russ and Khan. Dorn's service in the Great Crusade was second only to Horus, but where Horus reveled in flamboyance and charisma, Dorn remained steadfast, reserved, and grim. It was this contrast that made Horus his obvious choice as choice to lead as War Master. In line with this cold, resolute nature, Dorn's Imperial Fists became legends of siege warfare, masters of defense. Horus had once again jested, remarked that where his Luna Wolves could storm a fortress like no other, Dorn could hold it indefinitely. If I ever laid siege to one of your bastions, Rogal Dorn, the war would never end. The unstoppable force matched by the immovable object. And so, in the clash of might, the two stood, Horus the storm and Dorn the wall. Yeah, this is very interesting how the Primarchs make their choices. Some like Horus and his position, others don't. There's one line here about about Rogal Dorn and his spark. I'm just trying to find it. A warrior spark that had earned him victories alongside the likes of Russ and Khan. We're going back to that warrior soldier conversation, and yeah, like it seems like Dorn has this ability to tap into it. Almost seems like this rage or anger that can almost tip him over the breaking point and turn him like Super Saiyan, where all of a sudden he becomes that much more tactical and that much more like exacting. However that flip happens, he has this spark of brilliance or anger every now and again.
Yeah, and that's kind of there's a quote I'm just looking up right now, and it's about his fury. Um, and
We'll find it. We're coming for you, quote.
right. Um,
We're getting there
yeah, here,
slowly.
While he's looking for that, that comment the thing that we talked about earlier, where there's like different types of warriors. I saw grant this is like meant to be a joke, but I saw a reel that kind of grouped the Primarchs into three distinct groupings on how they would act. One was like the vanguard, one was uh the duelist or the support, and then the other one was the strategist. And I think it was Dorn, Gilliman, Lorgar. Trying to think of all of them. Magnus, Horus, and uh who was the sixth one?
We're getting there.
We're getting there. It'll come to me, but basically Dorn was grouped in the strategist uh
Yeah.
grouping of the Primarchs, because like he's that very much that professional soldier, siege, fortify, tactical, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, I found the quote here. So many wars, so much blood spilt, all to reach the point that she foresaw from the start. I gave you hell for it then, but the new doctrines must give way to the old, it seems, and we can only worry about what that means if any of us get out of this alive. Sigismund just stared back at him, the steel trap gaze, the same mask he wore when he dueled. So the discipline is ended. The leash is off, Dorn told him. March out. Take the wall defenses, take the reserves, and rally them. They will be blind and deaf out there soon, and so we'll need a leader. Sigismund nodded again. No other soul would have noticed it, but there was something other than the usual dutifulness in his eyes just then, something like hunger. Any specific objectives, Lord? He asked. At that, Dorn almost laughed, not from humor, just from emptiness, the caustic recognition of what would come next. He had given everything. He was already empty, drained to a husk, and the hardest test still lay ahead. The lion had not come. Gilliman and Russ had not come. They were out of time, out of luck, and what remained now was only defiance, only bloody minded, bloody handed defiance. No, I set you free, my beloved, my best son, said Rogal Dorn, never taking his eyes off his first captain. Do now what you were made to do. He smiled a second time, the expression as icy as the despair that gripped his hearts. Hurt them. Like, so sick. And that I think it is because like Rogal Dorn like channeled he took different captains within his legion and made them into different things. Like Alexis Pollux was this like really like steadfast defender. It, he literally made Sigismund the Black Templar into the warrior that was the rage that was Rogal Dorn's like embodiment. He's like I just want you to hurt them. It's like, oh, sick. Like that's just and I think that just embodies exactly what he's all about.
He has that point of no return, and if you get past it, it's
he's
not
just
good. You see that little bit in his eye switch, and you know you're fucked.
it's like seeing a shark's eyes go black. Like they have like a little bit of white, and it's just like.
Black eyes like a doll's eyes.
Gold.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's kind of cool too with how he, like you said, how he uses his captains for his emotions. Like Horus had his Mournival, and that was kind of a very different thing, but it was kind of a balance. And this is a different way that the Primarchs use like their captains as a way to balance or interact with just kind of mortals a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. I also have an excerpt from the First Wall. I think it's one of the Siege of Terra books, but it's just an excerpt with Dorn and Perturabo trading jabs at each other. So I can
your
say
mother
this for
was
like
a lily and your chicken was a stock.
Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries.
No.
So I can save that for like when we get to the personality section of Dorn, or just like the very end as just like a fun thing. But before we get to that, we need to finish up this part of his history with fortifying the Imperial Palace, because that is what Imperial Fists are all about. When the Emperor returned to Terra to forge a capital worthy of an empire spanning 1,000,000 worlds, Dorn was commanded to accompany him. The Emperor decreed that Rogal Dorn would oversee the defense of the Imperial homeworld, a task that would see the Imperial Fists entrusted as the Emperor's Praetorians. With his unparalleled skill in fortress construction, Dorn was given the solemn duty of designing the defenses of the Imperial Palace. His creations would stand as testament to his genius, and they would be tested in the crucible of war as the Horus heresy ravaged the Imperium. Once the Primarch Fulgrim dared to question Dorn, asking if he believed the Imperial Palace could endure an assault by the Iron Warriors Legion, Dorn's answer, blunt and unwavering, was that it could withstand such a siege. The truth of his words enraged Perturabo, the Iron Warriors Primarch, to such a degree that the two would one day clash in a brutal confrontation during the heresy, a battle that would forever mark their bitter rivalry. In the final days of the Great Crusade, the Emperor called Dorn and the Imperial Fists back to Terra, where they would assume garrison duty. But when the heresy erupted in full force, the garrison duty became something far more dire. It became the grim task of preparing the defenses of Terra and the Imperial Palace for the coming storm. Horus and his traitors poised to strike at the heart of the Imperium. The battle for the Emperor's throne was about to begin, and Dorn would stand resolute, unyielding in his defense. And we have a little quote. There is no enemy. The foe on the battlefield is merely the manifestation of that which we must overcome. He is doubt and fear and despair. Every battle is fought within. Conquer the battlefield that lies inside you, and the enemy disappears like the illusion he is.
Yes, yes. If you let fear take hold, the battle is already lost. Yeah, so he gets sent back to Terra to fortify the planet, and he does. He builds a big old fucking bastion. He turns a whole mountain into a fortification of guns and ramparts and all types of fun stuff.
So he's super sick hearing some of like the things that he does and how it makes people sad in the Imperial Palace. Like, cause he's taking out like gardens and stuff that they made, and he's like putting like gun emplacements there. There's a scene where Malkador is like walking with him, and he's like, "This used to be my favorite garden. Now it's a bunker." Like it's like, oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But it's a best damn bunker in the whole Imperium.
Yeah.
So well done there, Rogal Dorn. Yeah, but even Rogal Dorn says like I feel like he's not happy with what's happening to the palace because like he is a builder and he built that thing for like grandeur and to rule and is like a centerpiece of the Imperium, and then to have to go and kind of deface it and turn it into like the soon to be war zone. Yeah, he's not happy about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, but all the artwork of like Rogal Dorn during the Siege of Terra just goes so hard. I'm looking for some of the pictures now and I'm sending it to the chat just because and it's like a lot of them are just like Rogal Dorn over the ramparts of the Imperial Palace, and it's just like you can just see the kind of crazy stuff that he's built and done. It is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, he's telling the artisans, don't forget to carve those skulls there on the on the parapets there. Oh yeah, look at all that up there that he built. Yeah, fucking cool.
Super sick.
Good for him. And I think that's where we'll leave his history part. It's interesting. He doesn't have that much going on really when it comes to what he's up to. Like he pretty much has a cool planet. He has a lot happening on that planet. He has an interstellar empire, but we don't really need to know much about him. We're never really told much about it. Because that's not Rogal Dorn's story. His story is just to fortify and defend the Emperor. And he spends a lot of time doing that. And yeah, his Legion has a bunch of battles and honors and stuff, but they're different, they're not the renown that the Luna Wolves brought home, where like the citizens are like talking about them, like, whoa, you hear about that crazy battle they drop potted in, and then a day later the planet was there. It's a different type of war the Imperial Fists bring.
Oh, for sure. I got one more image, and it's actually the cover image for I think the first Siege of Terra book, the Solar War, and it's another one of just Dorn just standing like a statue over one of the ramparts of the Imperial Palace.
Yeah, you look in the background, there's just like all these carved golden lions and stuff. Very cool. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, so what's left in this episode, we're going to dive into his personality, his appearance, his war gear, a couple other things. So we still got some more to go through, but yeah, we'll poke back in on the history on the next episode when the Horus Heresy kicks off, because Rogal Dorn's just building now.
Seth asked a pretty good question. Do you think Dorn could have gone down the path of Ferrus Manus with the whole flesh is weak mantra?
Just replace instead of replacing with the augmetics, everything's just replaced with concrete. Oh boy.
I don't know. Like the whole flesh is weak is an interesting thing for anyone who's actually worked on like anything mechanical or robotics, especially, or machines are fickle, man. They are not as strong as human flesh. We can cut my arm pretty deep, pretty nasty, and it will still work and function. But if you sever the same thing with machines and you sever one or two of those wires in there, that machine's fucked. Machines are fickle. And when it comes to like the planet Inuit where Dorn was raised, it's this cold, like you need your body, you feel your body all the time. That's part of it. It's like a warning sign. It's strength as well. Like it's durable. So I don't know if he would fall in the same way because just his upbringing and yeah, I don't know. Machines are fickle.
Yeah, and I think Dorn kind of embodies more like build your like strengthen yourself up to go back to the whole
Yeah,
thing with you got to be tough on to live on Inwit, and that's like where like the Imperial like the meme lore of like the Imperial Fist obsession with the pain glove comes from as like both like a meditation technique, but also a punishment to a legionnaire that screws up. So
yeah, yeah. Cool. All
Let's
right. Well,
do
yeah.
you want to dive
Let's.
into the personality? Cool. We'll dive on in. Personality. Rogal Dorn's personality was defined by a relentless commitment to duty and an unyielding sense of responsibility. He was a figure of absolute discipline, ever steadfast in his devotion to the Emperor and to the Imperium. Unlike many of his brothers, Dorn was not swayed by passion or flair. He saw his role not as one of glory, but of unflinching service. To him, the Imperium was a fortress, and his actions, his very being, were dedicated to ensuring it stood firm against any threat. His mind was sharp, precise, and tactical, yet he viewed any weakness or failure in his work as a personal failing. For Dorn, there was no room for error, only perfection in execution. While his demeanor was often cold and unapproachable, Dorn's sense of honor was beyond reproach. He had no interest in political machinations or the intrigue that consumed many of his brothers. His focus remained squarely on the defense of humanity and the maintenance of order. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, it was with the weight of certainty and resolve. His presence commanded respect, not through fear or manipulation, but through the sheer force of his unshakable will. Dorn was the embodiment of stoicism, enduring hardships with a grim fortitude that left little room for self doubt or hesitation. Yet beneath the hardened exterior, Dorn was not without a deep sense of loyalty. His loyalty to the Emperor was absolute, as was his devotion to his legion, the Imperial Fists. To those who served under him, he was not just a commander, but a protector, dedicated to their well being and to the fulfillment of their shared purpose. His relationships with his brothers were marked by quiet respect, but he often struggled to bridge the gap between himself and those who thrived on charisma or emotional connection. Nor did not seek admiration or accolades. His satisfaction came from only knowing his work had kept the Imperium intact and his fortress stood against the tides of chaos.
Job well done is its own reward, eh?
Exactly. He's one of those guys, man. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it right, and it's gonna be the
Yeah.
best.
It's gonna be fucking great. I can't
Right.
wait.
someone should have told Perturabo that maybe he would have not be so salty and bitter.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Sorry, I just about died.
yeah.
I leaned back in my chair and it just didn't stop. I'm like,
Ah, a live stream death. That's a first for
there you
Lorehammer.
go. Lorehammer Legal will be all over it. How do we monetize
They don't like
this?
death. They.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I said at the beginning of this episode, I kind of liked Dorn growing up just because of this, like, no nonsense. Like, he's a serious he's a serious person in a serious setting. Like 40K, yes, is very goofy, very over the top and dramatic, but with that brings the seriousness where it's like you're messing around with demons and you're messing around with like Xenos that are gonna read your mind, and like there's no room for like jokingness. Like I just don't see how Layman Russ can be an actual fucking person in 40K. Like how does that happen? Rogal Dorn just seems like a much more believable, much more grounded person for 40K.
If you like take like a comparison between him and Conrad Kurz, you're like, what?
Yeah. What the fuck?
Oh
Cool.
boy.
And the other thing that is pretty notable about his personality is the Emperor's Praetorian. Yes, that's a title, but also, man, it's like the War Master in Horus. Like it's who he is essentially. So the Emperor's Praetorian was not merely a title; it was a declaration of trust and a burden unlike any borne by his brothers. Rogal Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists, was chosen not for his charisma but for his adaptability. Nor for his adaptability, sorry, but for his unwavering loyalty and incorruptible will. Where Horus was named War Master and granted command of the Great Crusade's outer thrust, Dorn was assigned the sacred duty of safeguarding its heart. Terra, the cradle of mankind, was placed in his hands. It was Dorn who surveyed the walls of the Imperial Palace and envisioned them as bulwarks against the unthinkable. Every stone laid bore his scrutiny. Every defense built carried his signature. In that task there was no glory, only duty, and Dorn accepted it without hesitation. He was not as loved as Sanguinius was, nor as feared as Russ or Cruz. He did not inspire tales of wonder or awe, but his name was spoken with certainty and respect. Soldiers knew that if Dorn held the walls, they would not fall. He did not falter, did not boast, and did not yield. Among his brothers, he was often misunderstood, as seen as rigid, cold, and even joyless. But these judgments missed the truth. Dorn was a man who gave all of himself to a vision of humanity that endured. When others were tempted by ambition, bitterness, and doubt, Dorn stood firm, a silent sentinel amidst a storm of pride and madness. His loyalty was not blind, it was deliberate, chosen each day with iron resolve. When the heresy came, it was Rogal Dorn who bore the weight of the Emperor's final command to prepare the defense of Terra, to hold the line against the traitors, and to be the last hope of a broken Imperium. His choices were not always popular nor painless, but they were necessary. He watched as brothers fell to corruption, as sons died in droves, as the ideals of the Crusade crumbled into ashes, and still he did not break. The Emperor's Praetorian remained to the last, not because he believed in victory, but because he could not imagine no other duty. In that, he was not just a warrior or an architect, he was the last wall between mankind and ruin, and for the last time, that wall held. Yeah. Brody, you're talking about how like he was the imperial truth pusher. Like he wanted to push that. Like we're humanity united. This is what we're up to. There's a dark galaxy out there that we can't allow to overtake us. Yeah, and he holds that to the very bitter end.
I totally like that's why I'm like, he just seems like the Imperial Truth guy. Like there's yes, Horus is charismatic
Yeah.
and like is part of like that and has Imperial Truth, but like he's not winning people over with Imperial Truth. He's winning them over with his charisma. Dorn is like, no, this is just what it is. Like, and we're
Yeah.
here to
Well,
help.
welcome to the Imperium,
Yeah,
bitches.
welcome to the Thunderdome, motherfuckers. Like, ah!
With strong logic like that, who needs charisma?
Right.
um Do you think the Emperor could have made a better choice at all in his Praetorian? It seems like one of the big choices in his Praetorian was like loyalty. So then Rusk springs to mind. What do you think about such a thing?
I think I think he's really the only logical choice in the fact that he wanted the Imperial Palace fortified. I do think if he
Yeah.
was just like, I need a protector, I need somebody whose legion is on call, you're my guys, I think he actually would have chosen Russ. Yeah.
Sure.
And like kept a portion of the legion at Terra, and but like cycle them out so they don't stay there too long and get bored. They can cycle them out into the war zones, get them what they need, and then bring another group back and be like, "Here's your rest stop. You're protecting the Emperor," because they'll still be like super like into that, but at the same time they're I think some of the best Astartes out there at like in 30K um to be like a protector
Yeah.
for him. So I think those guys would be the next choice if it didn't require building things.
Sure. Yeah, and then that whole building aspect really narrows
It's him
down,
or
who can do
Porterabo,
it,
like
like
at that point. Like if
or maybe, like, maybe a Ferris Manus could do it as well, but, like, yeah, when you put those 3 up in the same room, you're like it's very clear which one's gonna win. Like, yeah, you put Rogal Dorn, Ferris Manus, and fucking Porterabo into a room, and believe it or not, Rogal Dorn becomes charismatic.
right.
Like that.
It's not hard to be more
Yeah.
charismatic than a fucking wall and a robot. So
No. No, sir. Yeah, cool.
To-
Fun little thought there to see if anyone
Mhm.
else fits, but no, I think that was the suitable,
Yeah,
most suitable.
Ro- yeah, Rogal Dorn I think is like really the only logical choice
Yeah. Where
because
would we? Sorry.
oh, like to take it back to like that strategist vanguard and like support staff for among the Primarchs. Like, yeah, Russ is definitely one of the most loyal, but he's the guy you send out as the vanguard. Like if like there's a tough fight ahead, he's the guy you send out. You don't want him to just guard someplace and to try and
Yeah.
fortify a position. That is Dorn's realm. Do not take that away from him.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to like the War Master position, like even the Primarchs and in our universe, we argue which one would have been better War Masters. But yeah, I think everyone agreed, even in their universe, like, yeah, nope, Dorn makes sense. Carry on. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe they don't like it that he got that favor or whatever, but they're like, well, fucking still makes sense. Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
certainly.
But then you have your what ifs like the Dornian heresy, which I know I've brought this up a few times, but I really think that definitely deserves a bonus episode of some
It'll
sorts.
have
Now that
to.
we're officially talking about Dorn.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see what we can do.
So, but enough about his personality. We're going to talk about his appearance and his fine non-canon mutton chops.
That's
Because
all
I
we
think
need to talk
official
about.
I know, because I think official artwork, he's like always clean shaven, but like in his TTS appearance, and then of course the third party model I got of him, he's got the beautiful mutton chops, and just can't do without it. So, anyways, Dorn voice. Rogal Dorn's appearance, both in and out of armor, reflected the indomitable will and stoic presence he exuded as the Praetorian of Terra. Standing tall and broad-shouldered, his features were carved from granite, embodying a sense of unwavering determination. His stern face, framed by short, dark hair, often appeared set in perpetual frown, as if ever burdened by the weight of his responsibilities. Dorn's eyes, cold and unyielding, held a sharp intellect and a sense of grim resolve that never faltered, even in the darkest moments of the Great Crusade. His posture, always erect and proud, conveyed a sense of duty that went beyond the ordinary, marking him as a leader destined to shoulder the heaviest burdens. In his armor, he was a living fortress, his mighty form encased in the golden and black plate of the Imperial Fists, the sigil of his legion proudly displayed. His presence on the battlefield was enough to rally his warriors and strike terror into his enemies. Out of armor, Dorn still maintained a commanding, imposing presence. His physique, honed by decades of warfare, was built for endurance and strength, not for grace or agility. Despite the grandeur of his role, there was a severity in his manner that left little room for pleasantries. His interactions with others were often direct and to the point, as if every word and action was an extension of the serious duty to which he had committed himself. Even without his battle plate, Dorn's presence exuded an authority that left little question as to who was in command. His appearance reflected the somber nature of his character, unyielding, unrelenting, and forever committed to the Imperium, regardless of personal cost.
Yeah, cool. Just the broad shoulders, like you could tell this guy is just muscle. It may not be the most defined muscles, but like he's winning an arm wrestle against all the other primarchs. Like it just yeah, you ever hang out with a construction worker and then a guy who just goes to the gym and lifts weight and the construction worker doesn't look that tough until they lift weights and it's like and then the construction worker hangs out with a farm kid, and then he gets shown up by the farm kid. Like there's levels to this strength. And Rogal Dorn's got
Mm-hmm.
one of them like sleeper bodies where it's like, yeah, it's big and firm and like it's gonna mess you up, but you don't know how strong it really is.
So he's the embodiment of dad strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just posted a couple of pictures to the chat of like Dorn and like his full get up, and it's just like this guy is like a
Oh,
freaking
fuck yeah.
he is a slab of beef.
I've never seen his helmet before. I don't know if that's official, that one that you sent me.
I'm not entirely sure it's official, but it fits. It
Yeah.
fits him.
Oh yeah,
It
that's sick.
almost looks like yeah, it basically has like an aquila, but it kind of does like horns with the aquila almost with the wings. It's very cool looking.
So sick.
Yeah,
Oh man.
cool.
Speaking of all of his armor and everything, he's got some pretty sweet war gear. The Auric armor, commonly dressed in Baroque power armor of burnished copper and gold. Dorn also wore a red velvet cloak with an unfurled eagle wing motif, was heavily present on much of his war gear, most notably on a decorative section of his armor that rose above above the shoulders. It was said to be constructed from the same auric adamantium alloy as the Emperor's own personal combat armor. Like, so sick. So sick. Yeah. That like just the unfurled eagle wings on the back of the armor. Oh,
Yeah, it's so over the top
yeah.
with the gold and like yeah. There's only one suit of armor that's more like frivolous than that in all the Imperium. That's the
Yeah,
Emperor's.
exactly. All right. We got Storm's Teeth. This colossal chainsword, too weighty for any but a Primarch to wield, is said to have been crafted by the weapon masters of Inwit before the coming of the Emperor. Its razored teeth can shred metal, stone, and flesh with ease, and while the Primarch of the Imperial Fists Legion had many arms at his disposal, some relics of far greater power, it was this blade which had served him faithfully for so long that he favored most. I have you like the idea of like his chainsword, if you compare it to like an eviscerator chainsword, which is like the two-handed ones that the Space Marines and Sisters use, his is just bigger than that even.
Still just bigger
And
than
I'm
that.
like, oh my god, that's insane.
As you're saying, it's basically like Guts's Dragon Slayer greatsword, just the hunk of metal that only he can lift.
Yeah,
Made for an Imperial Knight or made for Rogal Dorn?
who knows?
Yes.
Find out tonight at 8
Who knows?
p.m. live at the Imperial Palace.
Wahoo!
Oh man. But like also I think it's really cool that he's like one of the only Primarchs that uses chain weapons. Like him and Angron are the only ones really that I know of. Everybody
Yeah,
else uses power
yeah, yeah.
weapons. And then
Yeah,
yeah.
it's one of those things, like, you get hit with anything by a Primarch, you're probably fucked, but why not use a still, like, a good weapon, like a power weapon?
Yeah, he's just like, nah man, I want me a sword that's a chainsaw. Like, okay.
The revving puts me to sleep at night.
It's revving,
I like
puts
it.
me to sleep. It's my meditation. Oh boy. The voice of Terra, presented to Rogal Dorn by the Legio Custodes to honor the Primarch's appointment as Praetorian of Terra. This tactical bolter follows the same pattern as the Legio Custodes' own weaponry, albeit redesigned for the hand and might of a Primarch to wield. I read the voice of Terra and I was like, this is going to be some crazy boxcaster that lets him talk to every point on the Imperial Palace or something. And then they're like, no, this is when the gun goes boom. Like,
Yeah.
so
Bark,
cool. Frag grenade. Frag grenade is an anti-personnel grenade commonly used by the military forces of the Imperium of Man. Like, yeah, it's basically what it is. Like,
Easy.
yeah, don't need to go into too much depth. He carries a lot of frag grenades.
A lot of
Yeah,
them.
a lot of them.
How many? More than we could
Yeah.
carry.
Teleport Homer. A teleport Homer was a device of ancient Imperial technology utilized by the Adeptus Astartes to allow teleportation through the warp from one location using an orbiting starship to a point on a planetary surface. A teleport Homer transmits a special signal that can be locked onto to allow their users to teleport to a given location through the Imperium with great accuracy by using teleport technology located at the point of origin. Was this teleport Homer like installed in his armor or something like that? Because I know Vulcan,
That's
his
the vibe I
teleport
got.
Homer is his hammer.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, no, I thought it was like embedded in his armor for
Mhm.
sure.
Sick.
But it's the Aquila wings on his backpack. How you can see it from space.
Ooh, that
Oh, there
that's
he
even
is.
cooler,
There's that glowing, blinding light of gold down
right?
there. Lock on.
I wonder, since he was at the Imperial Palace a lot, I wonder if he was ever mistaken for like just a giant Custodes.
Yeah, like a statue on the side of the wall there somewhere. So
Or like he's wearing gold armor just like the Custodes, and he's got like all the red drapery and everything. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, wonder how many people confuse him for just another one of the Emperor's bodyguards.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
possible.
And his final piece of war gear is the phalanx. We're going to be learning a lot about this over the next 4 episodes. Because it's more than just a spaceship. It's more. So let's talk about the origins this time. The Imperial Fists are said to hail from Terra. Such is the official record. But this is a half-truth at best. Their true stronghold is not on any world. It is the Phalanx, a void-born fortress of unfathomable scale and strength. It is their bastion, their anvil, their shield. It was Rogal Dorn who found the Phalanx, derelict in the void, a relic of a forgotten age pulsing with dormant power. When the Emperor discovered his sons among the frozen hives of Inwit, Dorn offered the ship to his father as a tribute. The Emperor in turn returned it to Dorn, entrusting him with command of the 5th or the 7th Legion and the fate of the worlds yet unburned. No vessel built by mankind before or since has rivaled the Phalanx in scale. It is a relic of the dark soil of a lost history, constructed long before the Emperor's unification of Terra. A war engine of such magnitude that it dwarfs Imperial cruisers like insects clinging to its hide. Its prow alone can dock a dozen warships. Its outer surface gleams with weapons, sensors, and void shields, layered thick as any battleship's hull. It is shaped like a blade cast for war. Its sweeping wings and gilded vans trailing behind it like feathers of a golden bird of prey. Its hull is armored incarnate. Lance batteries and torpedo tubes saturate every vector of approach. No angle is undefended. No weak point exists. Countless attendant craft orbit it like penitents seeking absolution. The void churns behind its engine, a sheer output of plasma fire warping space as it passes. On its prow stands the symbol of the clenched gauntlet, the Fist of Dorn, a towering larger than the entire starships, carved with grim pride and eternal purpose. Though the annals named Terra as the chapter's origin, the truth remains unchanged. The Phalanx is their home, their origin, their legacy. Man, the symbol on this thing, the symbol alone is bigger than most starships. Like, fuck, this thing's massive.
Crazy.
That's no moon.
There is no mistaking who the space station belongs to.
Just imagine how much fucking paint it is to paint this thing yellow. We're talking at least 100 cans of paint, at least.
Please,
Upwards.
I bought 3 cans of paint. I barely did this room. Like,
Yeah. It's fun when you're like painting spacecrafts and stuff. Apparently you have to weigh up how much paint actually you slap on to the spacecraft. Because it can weigh quite a bit. But yeah, just literally the amount of paint it would take, it would be hundreds of tons of paint.
And
Crazy.
woe be to the fool that has to paint Averland Sunset on that hull. Oh,
No,
man.
it's fine. He's been lobotomized and now he likes it.
Oh boy.
2 thin coats of Averland Sunset, one of Flashgit's yellow, and then the highlight of Uriel yellow for all those sharp edges. Oh, I still have PTSD. But the Phalanx does have a role in all of this. The Phalanx has served as a fortress monastery and bastion since the first fires of the heresy ignited. Its shadow has fallen across hundreds of battlefields, harbinger of retribution. It is the hammer of the Imperial Fists. It is the wrath of Rogal Dorn made manifest. During the Great Crusade, the Emperor himself walked its halls. It served as his personal transport more than once, proof of its might and value. It was then, as it is now, the center of Imperial Fists operations, a force of war, discipline, and unflinching loyalty. Unlike chapters bound to a single planet, the Sons of Dorn draw their strength from no world. They require no throne of soil. They are forged in the void, raised among steel and fire. The Phalanx scours the stars for candidates. Worlds are visited only to find the worthy and discard the weak. Dorn refused the burden of governance. He spoke simply, I seek recruits, not vassals. And so the chapter remained mobile, eternal in motion, untouched by the rot of planetary politics. A phalanx is more than a ship, it is an engine of judgment. Larger than any vessel in the Imperial Navy, it is the spearhead of Imperial might. Its presence alone can quell rebellion. The golden Aquila upon its flank is a herald of doom to those who defy the will of Terra. It reflects starlight as if it were a star itself. In the time of the Great Crusade, it was more than a symbol. It was a will of the Emperor given form. It followed the 7th Legion where they were needed, casting this light before them. Within entire districts replicate war zones, forging Astartes in fire and hardship. The corridors are stone and steel, echoing with the chants of devotion and oaths unbroken. At the onset of the Horus heresy, the halls of the Phalanx were lined with relics of glory, kilometers etched honors, sanctified in silence. To this day, it holds the memory of Dorn. His remains rest within, honored as a martyr and guardian. The battle on Roma is kept here as well, watched over by the Auric Auxilia, once failed aspirants, now eternal sentinels. These warriors, though denied the black carapace, remain steadfast, as they are silent wardens of a fortress that cannot fall. They guard the bones of a primarch and the soul of a legion. The Phalanx is not just the home of the Imperial Fists, it is their purpose, it is their oath, it is their last fortress, and it shall never yield.
I love that. Their last fortress. And man, going through the history of this thing, it has so many times been in extreme battles and like crippled and then rebuilt this massive station. So very cool. Very long history.
So, like, super sick.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of all I had For his war gear, I do have some fun stuff we can talk about, but I think we'll get call-ins when we talk about it. It's going to be Dorn and other Primarchs. How does Dorn judge people? And I think we'll start by Dorn judging the three of us. I think Dorn would like me. I'm, a no-nonsense kind of guy. Me and him can go build shit together. I won't crack too many jokes for his sake, and I think we'd be okay. Dorn judges me okay.
Dorn approved. Dorn approved. We need a big rubber stamp. Dorn approved.
And what about you, Brody? Would Dorn approve
I
you?
think Dorn would approve of me. I think he would approve of my get it right instead of cutting corners attitude. Got to get it right.
He would.
Don't just slap it in there. Don't just schwap it in. Got to schwap it in, schwap it out. That's no good. Got to just gently put it in there. Just right there. Perfect cut. Perfect 45-degree miter cut. Dorn would have loved it.
Oh, he would have loved it. Okay. And Gerald, what about you? What do you bring it to the table? How would Dorn think of you?
I think I might get at least an adequate approval. I think he'll appreciate my get the job done mentality. And then, of course, I like building shit too.
Yo, Gerald, you're my old reliable. Every time I need somebody to help me out with Lorehammer, you're my Dorn. I can count on you to come and help out. So I think Dorn would definitely approve of you in that.
I think.
Wait, so does this mean I'm?
I was gonna say, I think the only
Does this mean
reason that he would not approve Gerald is because you let your fortification gather mold on it, and therefore,
yeah,
he would not approve of that.
No.
Oh
okay.
no! But don't worry, as we speak, the fortress monastery is being refortified, stronger and better.
And
so
he does
will
like
approve
that.
once
He does
again.
like that.
Yeah.
So you're rebuilding that trust and that promise that he sees in you. There you go.
Fantastic.
We got our first call in. It's gonna be Jax first. Give me a little nod here. Yeah, you're ready. Jax, would Dorn approve of you, or would he think you're an nonsensical person and cast you to the wind?
So I like to kit bash my models. He would hate me.
Oh god, this is not up to code. This is not a perfectly 45 mitered arm joint.
All I can think about now is Dorn as a home inspector.
Oh
None of this is up to code.
Yeah, he's always doing this on things too, like putting his finger and then wiping dust off it and going, not good.
Exactly.
That's all he'd say.
Makes note, must get air purifier.
Yeah. Well, do you approve of Dorn there, Jax, or is it
he's
two-way street?
he's a pretty sick Primarch. Like we'll see later, like he could hold his own in a fight against most other Primarchs. I think he gets like passed on. Like people look past him a lot, but like really he's like the Emperor's like number one guy. Like Horus may have been the favorite, but Dorn is like he's Dorn. Like broken toilet, call Dorn.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely good in that regard for sure. If you want something really done right and better than when you left it, like, because you could call it some people, but they're gonna do it and it's gonna be like a sloppy finished job at the end or whatever. But yeah, Dorn's just old reliable.
Take notes, Perturabo.
Yeah. Well, let's see what he thinks of other Primarchs. What does he think of Sanguinius? He likes it, believe it or not. Sanguinius and him have a strong friendship and admiration. During the Great Crusade, Dorn respected Sanguinius' nobility and charisma. He saw Sanguinius as a rare combination of grace and strength, and often relied on his counsel. They got along well. Yeah, that's fun. There's a couple people, like we said, in Ultramar. There's Dorn, there's Sanguinius, who has some statues. There's Raboot Gilliman, of course, and then I think Lion is the fourth one. But yeah, if you get along with like Sanguinius, that's a good sign. Like he's kind of hard to not get along with. He wants to be your friend. He wants the best for you, Sanguinius.
Sanguinius is just like the best bro.
Yeah. He's there to encourage you. Like, yo, man, he gives you compliments on your clothes every time he sees you. Fuck yeah.
One person Dorn would hate though is Conrad Kurz. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's off the chat.
Get
out of
Oh
here.
wait, please.
Yeah. Hostile and tense, I would say the relationship is. During the Crusade, Dorn and Cruz disliked each other intensely. Dorn saw Cruz as a dangerous and unstable liability. Cruz viewed Dorn as a hypocrite, using order as a mask for authoritarian cruelty. Their philosophies clash. Yeah. What other one do you want to know about? I got it for everyone. Dorn will judge anyone you want.
I'd love to hear like a full episode on like what these Primarchs saw and like what other Primarchs. But I guess honestly my main one has gotta be like Corvus Corax probably and Mortarion. Like on the one hand, Mortarion is like, I hate all tyrants and psychers, and then but I mean they might get along. And then on the other hand, Corvus Corax is like, I hate all tyrants, but the Emperor's pretty cool, so
Well, Corvus Corax, reserved but collaborative. Corax and Dorn both value discipline, though in different forms. Corax sees stealth and precision, Dorn fortitude and defense. They worked together well enough, but rarely sought each other's company. It was interesting kind of just always learning which order the Primarchs are found, and Dorn was found like 6th or 7th, I think, or whatever. But very early, so he would have had an opportunity to pretty much hang out with and like go to war with almost any of the legions, really, at one point or another. Whether we have that actual lore of it written down, probably not. But like, yeah, no, yeah.
And you said you wanted to hear about Morty?
Cold but
Morty.
formal. During the Great Crusade, Dorn and Mortarion had little in common and little reason to interact. Dorn's rigid discipline clashed with Mortarion's grin, pragmatism, and disdain for what he saw as weakness in others. They tolerated each other, but out of necessity, not out of affection. So yeah, just kind of like indifferent, like no real strong opinion, but just like, yeah, you do you, we'll do us over here.
I am kind of noticing a pattern with like all of these Primarchs. There several keywords keep kind of coming up: cold, distant, quiet, reserved, distant, mistrust, critical and cold, cold and formal.
Yeah. Like, if Primarchs take like whatever aspects they get and they amplify it, they crank that dial to 11, that cold Inwit spirit just lingers in him, that he doesn't even care to have small talk with people. He's almost like, I don't even care to judge you. He will judge you, but he does like it. He doesn't get off to it, He doesn't enjoy the judging aspect or like the gossiping or anything like that. It's almost like Batman, where he's like, he'll judge you just so he can have a backup plan on how to deal with you.
Exactly. I think
actually really
think-
interesting.
Go ahead there, Jax.
Like because each Primarch like can like for each like Primarch viewing each other, they could be subcategorized into best friend, tolerable, or you're my greatest rival, I'm gonna kill you when nobody's watching. And it was
Yeah.
especially the case for like Horus, where it's like Horus gets like elevated to Grand Master, and all of a sudden all the Primarchs are like, but I'm better than you. And alright. Except Horus mentioned Mortarion, Sanguinius, and Fulgrim are like true brothers. Which like, yeah, you can always see like Sanguinius, but like Mortarion, he's kind of just like the chill guy apparently. For all the Primarchs, just like tolerable but cold. But yeah, like for each Primarch, it's like, oh, best friend, or slowly pulling out the chainsword whenever they walk into the room.
Yeah. Yeah, the nature and the role of warriors, and like, yeah, it's hard to be friends, and then there's a lot of competition too and rivalries, even amongst the loyalists, and yeah, you put a bunch of strong testosterone fueled men into a room, sometimes it goes south. Sometimes you're not there to make friends.
Yeah. Sadly,
It's kind of
brothers don't always get along.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because I think back to like one of the old Warhammer episodes where Christian mentioned that the Primarchs are almost kind of like treated like pseudo like Greek, like how the Greek pantheon is treated. But then if you look at them and their stories, some philosopher historian made the comment like the Greek pantheon is basically like a heavily exaggerated version of a family unit. Now, what do the Primarchs call each other, and how do they relate themselves to the Emperor? A father and his sons, an exaggerated family unit. So,
Yeah.
Less incest though, so that's always good here.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, any other thoughts there, Jax?
I gotta say, I gotta say, Dorn is actually, in my opinion, one of the scariest Primarchs because he's when you first like start reading his lore and like backstory, he's just like a kind of a lovable goofball, kind of silent reserve, but he loves his grandfather. He keeps his blanket like even like during 30K, and he cherishes his one object that used to be his like beloved family member. But when you and throughout all of the Great Crusade and all that, he's really just like a nice guy. He's cold but distant. He's always reliable. But when you piss him off, he's like he murked Alfarius on Pluto. He held his own against Fulgrim, and he was able to resist Khorne. That story's coming soon, I can
Yeah.
imagine. But
Yeah.
he did all these feats, and he's just that Primarch.
Yeah. I think what I liked the most out of about him that I learned was like this rage aspect, or I still feel like that's not the best way to describe it, but that like ability to tap into something beyond, where it's like everything's going status quo, and then he's got this other level that he can just dial into and take things to an extreme.
There's a story where Nathaniel Garrow, he goes up to Dorn and is like, "Listen, Horus is betraying. You got to prepare." And Dorn is like, "You fool! Horus would never do that." And then Garrow does something to insult him, and there's a meme about it where it's like Garrow's holding up like a selfie, and he's like, "Well, I just again spreading the truth or whatever." And it's just Dorn in the background, like about to like punch his head off.
Yeah, jeez.
And like he's a
Yeah.
can't entirely do that. He's a Primarch, but he's one of the more stronger Primarchs if he's able to best Alfaris and Fulgrim. So,
Yeah, he's got
Or
some
was it
moves.
Omegon?
Dun, dun, dun.
We'll find out in the next episode. Well, cool. Yeah, Jax, thanks. Cool. Thanks for calling. Any final thought? Final quick thought? Nah, too
uh,
bad. Okay. Well, Jack's always fun. Always, I have something to tell you on the Conrad's Kurz episode, but that's not for a couple weeks, so we'll wait for the secrets to be revealed then. We got one more call in. We'll try to do real quick, and welcome to the stage there, Seth.
Yes.
I was gonna say
Finally!
if Seth didn't show up on this episode, I'd be really surprised.
Finally, it was Korn's blood dudes, Nurgle's gross dudes, Slanesh's I can't talk about it dudes, Zinch's magic dudes. And then I'm like, okay, Dorn's next. I'm so excited Dorn is coming up. And then it's Admech. Which, nothing against the Machine Boys. Flesh is weak and all of that, but like, Dorn! Finally!
What do you like about him? What makes you so happy about your boy there?
He's sort of I gotta get rid of the Rogal Dorn background, but he's sort of the rock of not like Dwayne, but like he's the stable one. You know, Gilliman's constantly stressing out and drowning in a pile of papers. Sanguinius is drowning in a pile of his own tears. Lion is skulking in the corner. Rogal Dorn is like the rock. He's the anchor. And I always thought like that's super cool. And also the masculine urge to stand against a raging tide is always something cool, you know?
Yeah, like Space Marines are famous for their last stands. It's almost like, you didn't have to last stand, and they're like, but we decided it was cool.
Exactly.
And we're gonna do it. And like that's Rogal Dorn. He's like, the whole galaxy is burnt around him, and he's still standing on this place that he's fortified. Like, yes.
Rogal Dorn has
Swinging
the
his
Space
chain,
Marine
keep
cover of
going.
"I'm Still Standing" just playing in the background wherever he goes.
Yeah,
Still
exactly.
standing better than I ever did.
Yeah. I feel like he should have a hammer, though. Rogal Dorn very much feels like the kind of guy who would be a Stormcast Eternal in Age of Sigmar, because, like, he shares roughly the same traits. I feel like he should have a Warhammer instead of an actual full-on Warhammer.
But what about just like a power fist? I think he needs a power
I think a
fist.
power fist would be pretty neat. I don't understand a chain sword, because, like, even chain tools in general, like, you aren't going to use too many I just think that a sword is kind of out of place for Dorn. I feel like he'd probably use like an axe or a hammer. I think he's pretty neat.
Yeah, hammer for sure, but yeah, like a weapon that can also create something, you can destroy with it, or do you like the Imperial Fists as well, or just like Rogal Dorn?
I
what he
love
brings?
the Imperial Fists. I love most of them except Sigismund. Hot take, I know, but like I can't stand the Black Templars because me, I'm the Imperial Fist guy. And then you got the Spanish Crimson Fists, and then you got the Soul Drinkers. We do not talk about the Soul Drinkers.
We don't do it.
And you got the screaming Black Templars who are constantly screaming, and like Imperial Fists are cool, except I do have one grudge against them. Ha, grudge, dwarves. I'm not good at painting the color yellow. Not good at all at painting the color
There's
yellow.
a really simple
fine.
solution to that, Seth.
Is it pink?
Really, really simple. No.
Oh.
Paint Black Templars.
No! Why would you do this to me?
Great advice.
No!
Perfect advice.
All you gotta do is prime them black, and then they're done. There you go.
Yeah, you're good.
I hate you.
Paint the shoulder pads white. Boom, there you go.
Wow. That
Sons of Dawn.
saddens me deeply. I saw
Yeah, there you go.
an epic kit bash of like Lionel Johnson into Rogal Dorn, except it said Rogal Dorn, and he comes back, but he's the leader of the Black Templars now, and it just filled me with so much rage.
I honestly think if Rogal Dorn came back, he would be like, I love all of my sons except for those ones over there. And he'd point to the Black
'cause he's
Templar and be like, they're way too non-imperial truthy for him now. They've gone
Like,
full.
Man, I think he would like it, man. Like, I think, yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, they're over the top, but also like Dorn gets consumed by vengeance, and like, there is a little bit of that at the end. Yeah, but he's not there yet in his storyline where he's all locked into anger only stage.
Ursat's pointed out that I need to make the obligatory Terry the Templar reference. Terry the Templar should return as Primarch of the Black Templars, while Rogal Dorn leads the
Chapter
Fists.
Master.
Chapter Master
Terry.
I feel like he'd be kind of iffy about the Crimson Fist, because they're supposed to be the Ultramarines of the Imperial Fist, which sounds really weird to say. But they're supposed to be the ones who follow the Codex Astartes, like, to the line. And he definitely wouldn't like Black Templars. I don't like Black Templars. Just going to put that out there. They're weird. I don't like how much they scream at me.
Oh, man, you poor soul. Yeah, you're missing out on like the coolest thing in 40K. You know that, right?
Every time we have a last wall family reunion, they're always screaming and throwing tables over the smallest things.
I'm telling you right now, Seth, it's okay to be wrong, but you just don't.
It's
voice your
okay.
opinion.
No.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
Nah.
Cool. Well, any other closing thoughts there, Seth?
You mentioned how, I think, Gerald, were you the one who mentioned that a lot of the Primarchs usually end up having the same description of being, they're stoic and detached and calm and yet dangerous. Were you the one?
No, that was in regards to how Dorn is towards the other Primarchs. It's always the kind of the same. He's very stoic.
Right.
He's very reserved. He's very quiet. That sort of thing.
I picked up some new 40K reading material. I got Eidolon the Auric Hammer, and this Horus Rising, the addiction begins. There's
glorious.
3 primarchs that show up in this book. It's Horus, Dorn, and Sanguinius, and I really appreciate how Dan Abnett, like all the primarchs, are supposed to roughly sound the same, except for Conrad Kurz, who's supposed to sound like the Joker all the time, going, no, I was about to say riddle me this.
Space Batman, what are you talking about?
So, why so serious? But I think that they do generally sound the same. They're all stoic and strong. But I really like how Dan Abnett wrote how each Primarch has their own sort of style of speaking. It's kind of weird. You have to read the book, though, after you subscribe to the Warhammer Patreon. That's right. For only, was it $2?
Couple bucks.
$2.
Some
You
amount.
can join the live stream and replace me instead. You know you want to. You know you want to.
I love it when the listeners do all the advertising for us. This is
You
great.
get that beautiful shade of green on the Discord too. Join the Discord, please, please, please.
Nice. Yeah. Well, thanks for calling in and for shouting us out. Yeah, the Discord's fun.
I'll be back.
I love it in there. He'll be back. All right, Seth. Adios.
See you later.
Thanks for sharing. And then I get sick joy out of booting people. I'm gonna be honest. It's one of my favorite parts about doing the show. Cutting people off mid-sentence. Chef's kiss. Well, we did another episode. That's part 1 of Rogal Dorn. We're halfway through his story. Not much has happened, honestly, and not much does happen until it all happens, and he's the hero of the Imperium. So we'll save that for the next episode and just do some end of the episode notes. If you like homebrew lore, come check out Lorehammer Listener Lore. I read homebrew lore. You can email your lore to lorehammerpodcast at gmail.com, and I'll read it off when I get a chance to. Been fun.
Fantastic. And come on over to the Grimlore podcast where we get to talk about Warhammer Fantasy. And fun fact, my co-host and I actually did a Primarch episode for our Patreon only members. So come join our Patreon if you want to get the full scoop on that once you're done listening to Lorehammer.
Yeah.
And then
and once you guys have listened to Lorehammer Listener Lore and you've listened to the Grim Lore podcast and you're like, man, it's a lot of lore.
More.
There's more.
I still need more.
There's more to this hobby than just the lore. If you want to get into the hobby side of things, come join me on the hobby hour in the green room. We've got the brand new green room you can see behind me. I've got the flooring finished. All the walls are up. Now it's just moving all the hobby stuff in. So we've got a couple things in the works.
One precious mini at a time.
Got a couple things in the works. Hopefully by next week, everything's finished. I completed, set up, so that we can start doing live streams and we can start doing hobby hangout live streams, doing some painting tutorials, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a good time. Keep that in mind. I'm also going to be releasing a video after getting everything set up for the hobby hour in the green room on how I set everything up, where I put everything, what my plans were, how to maybe set up your hobby room if you have the ability to do so. So that kind of stuff.
Nice. Very fun.
Glorious.
Cool. Well, that's an episode, boys. You guys will be on one more Imperial Fist episode, but it'll be for the 40K era. So we will see you two then.
I look forward to
get
that.
out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Before we go, I do have that excerpt from the first ball pulled up if you want to read that, or we could just save it for like okay. This is all right. So this is strictly just to show how petty Dorn and Perturabo can be against each other. For context, Perturabo has just arrived at the Lionsgate spaceport and Dorn's forces are in full retreat. They confront one another and trade some serious petty insults. Although Perturabo is often characterized as the petty one in the rivalry, Dorn is certainly not taking the high road here. And so it starts here. Brother. All of Perturabo's scorn poured into that one word. His external address carried his voice easily across the distance, while Vox Transmit broadcasted across an open channel for all to hear. He had nothing to keep from friend or foe today. Dorn did not reply. Do you wish to discuss terms? At this, the Praetorian stiffened, hands moving onto the grip of the two-handed chainsword. You think me beaten? The reply drifted back, derision in the tone. Perturabo cast his gaze about the terminal. His forces were on the advance everywhere he looked. I think you are good enough commander to know when you are outmatched. Perturabo chuckled at the thought. Were you expecting some assistance, perhaps? Some hidden reserves? You have turned lies into a weapon and guile into your shield, Dorn said. Cultists, traitors, warp abominations, these are your allies now. To win with such powers is no victory at all. The denial snagged at Perturabo's pride, and he straightened, the iron circle clattering into attack form around him. If I bring a weapon, it is only to break the fence that you have erected. If you are truly superior, it is time you step out of the protective shadow of our father. Is that what you wish? Dorn brandished his chainsword. You and I, blade against hammer. The temptation was almost overwhelming. For long years, Perturabo had thought of this moment. He had pictured in exquisite detail how he would humble his brother and prove himself the greatest commander in the galaxy. The Vox buzz distracted from the daydream. You would like that, wouldn't you, brother? Perturabo declared. To take that petty road rather than settle this as generals. A brawl in the dirt may suit you, but it is not enough for me. You may brawl, but I am an expert swordsman. The barb tugged again, but Perturabo would not be drawn by his brother's insults. He pictured again the vision that sustained him. I will crush you, Dorn. Forge breakers shall shatter your armor and break your bones before we are done. But that proves nothing save my physical superiority. Before I end you, I will lay low everything you have raised. I will topple your towers and shatter your walls. I will deliver the War Master to our father, and you will watch everything you have trusted be torn apart. When you have nothing left but the rubble of your ambition, and I stand triumphant amid the folly of your inferiority, when all the world's weeping will not save you, and all you have is regret for bricks and despair for mortar, when you look at me and know that you were bested by the Lord of Iron, and accept the truth of your hubris, only then will my victory be complete, and I will end your suffering. Sorry, that was also supposed to be Perturabo. I apologize, wrong voice. Okay. This is actually Dorn. Bold words coming from a man sent his minions to do his fighting for him. Dorn stretched out a hand, gesturing to the spaceport and its surrounds. A million souls it has cost you for a few kilometers of ground. You always were wasteful, Perturabo, lacking finesse. When terror burns in the Emperor's corpse is ash, we will see the value of finesse.
Nice. Yeah, I like that them just exchanging little barbs. A brawl? No, I'm a swordsman, actually.
Yeah, I love that.
What a dick. Very cool. Well, we'll save more about what happens between brothers turned enemies on the next episode of Lorehammer. See you then. Adios, everyone.
Adios.
Bye-bye.